Chapter 2947. This turn of events was beyond the expectations of Qin Batian and the others. In their eyes, Yi Zhong had always been a calm and wise old man. But they did not expect him to be so impulsive at this moment. Rushing in so rashly, wasn't that giving Longzun a chance? If they did not know Yi Zhong's character, they would have suspected that Yi Zhong did it on purpose, deliberately becoming a bargaining chip in Longzun's hands to exchange for a way out for Longzun. At the same time, Yi Zhong's face was also filled with anger. He did not expect Longzun to be so despicable to use him to threaten everyone. "Fei Yang, don't worry about me," Yi Zhong shouted. "Shut up." Longzun roared and sneered, "Don't think that I don't dare to kill you." "Kill me." Yi Zhong closed his eyes. "Old thing." Longzun was instantly furious. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and calmed the anxiety in his heart. He looked at Longzun and asked, "What you said before, is it true, or is it just to trick master into the zone of severance?" When Yi Zhong heard this, he immediately opened his eyes and looked at Longzun. His eyes were filled with anticipation. Longzun looked at Qin Feiyang and then at Yi Zhong. "If I said that I didn't kill them and just wanted to trick you into coming in, would you believe me?" Hearing this, Yi Zhong fell silent. "See, no matter what I say now, you won't believe me. So, why are you still talking nonsense?" Longzun said. Yi Zhong roared, "Did you kill them or not?" "Yes." Longzun suddenly roared and said, "Even now, this sovereign still remembers the scene before their deaths. That despair, that helpless expression, and that pitiful look in their eyes. It really makes one's heart ache." "Ah," Yi Zhong howled in pain. This was the first time everyone saw Yi Zhong showing such a sad side. "Too much, too much." Supreme Cloud muttered, his fists clenched, his eyes filled with disgust. The sovereign beast roared in a low voice, "We can't let such a vicious person leave alive." Qin Batian and Lu Xingyang also nodded in agreement. Not only to humans, but also to Yi Zhong. How much had Yi Zhong sacrificed for the dragons? He didn't even hesitate to bear the infamy of eternity. But what did he get in return? It was cruelty, it was indifference, it was the tragic death of his wife and child, it was the inhuman exploitation. If he could be so heartless to Yi Zhong, there was no need to mention how he would treat other humans. Someone like Longzun should have been hacked to pieces long ago. No. Even if he were to be hacked into pieces, it would not be enough to quench the hatred in his heart. "Fei Yang," Yi Zhong slowly calmed down and opened his eyes. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but feel heartache when he saw those eyes filled with despair and bitter laughter. "I know that with your personality, you will definitely think of a way to save me. But I hope that you won't do that. If she escapes alive because of me, I won't be able to rest in peace even if I die. Fei Yang, I don't have any other requests. As long as you help me take care of Shui, Yicheng, and the old man, I'll be satisfied. Don't worry about me, kill her." Yi Zhong roared. Qin Feiyang looked at Yi Zhong in silence. "What are you hesitating for? I'm a sinner to begin with. Death is not to be regretted." Yi Zhong roared. "Huh, don't you understand Qin Feiyang? He would rather die than watch the people around him die. What's more, you're his most respected master." Longzun shook his head and sneered. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Have Qin Batian released the domain of severance immediately." "No. You know her character," Li Yao said. "Once the domain of severance is released, she definitely won't let you go. At that time, not only me, but you and all the living beings in the ancient world will be destroyed by the space-time storm." Yi Zhong roared anxiously. He blamed himself in his heart. If it wasn't for his impulse, would Qin Feiyang be in such a dilemma? He was already so old, but he still couldn't control his emotions and implicated his disciples. He was really muddle-headed. "Fei Yang, no matter what decision you make, we will support you." Lu Xingyang looked at Qin Feiyang and smiled. Qin Feiyang looked at Lu Xingyang, then at Qin Batian, Cloud Sovereign, Beast Sovereign, Yizhong, and finally at Long Zun. Long Zun smiled. I believe that you won't be willing to let Yizhong die. Qin Feiyang didn't answer and closed his eyes. Sigh. Madman couldn't help but sigh. He understood Qin Feiyang. He was loyal. Now, one side was Yizhong, and the other was Long Zun. It was a very difficult choice for him. Don't struggle. Who doesn't know Qin Feiyang's personality? If you don't save Yizhong, I'm afraid you won't be able to overcome the hurdle in your heart for the rest of your life. Long Zun said. Do you know me well? Suddenly, Qin Feiyang opened his eyes, and two cold lights burst out. Long Zun was shocked. At this moment, Qin Feiyang's eyes were even colder than the Grim Reaper. Master, I'm sorry. Between you and the world, I must choose the world. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and apologized to Yizhong. You don't have to say sorry. Because this choice is what I want to see. Yizhong smiled slightly. Not only was he not sad, but he was also gratified. Thank you, Master. Qin Feiyang smiled gratefully. With a thought, the white-eyed wolf appeared. Old witch, you're really a disgrace to the divine dragon. As soon as the white-eyed wolf appeared, it cast a disdainful look at Long Zun. Long Zun looked at the white-eyed wolf with a trace of surprise in his eyes. At this time, why did Qin Feiyang call this wolf out? Qin Feiyang said, you probably don't know the ability of the white-eyed wolf. The ability of the white-eyed wolf, Madman murmured. But suddenly, he was refreshed and laughed, of course she doesn't know. When the white-eyed wolf showed that ability, it was in the divine demon forest. At that time, all the ancestral dragons had already been slaughtered by us. Ability? Long Zun was surprised and asked, what ability? Deprive cultivation, and it's a permanent deprivation. Qin Feiyang said word by word, turned his head to look at the white-eyed wolf and shouted, cripple her for me. See, at the critical moment, it's still brother who has to take action. The white-eyed wolf smiled complacently. Boom! In the next moment, as a bright golden light surged into the sky, a huge golden beast shadow suddenly appeared out of nowhere. This was its battle soul. Long Zun immediately raised his head to look at the golden beast shadow, but did not feel any strong sense of danger. Hee. Don't underestimate brother, because brother has always been a legend. The white-eyed wolf grinned. The golden beast shadow suddenly opened its wide mouth, and a terrifying force suddenly poured into the absolute domain, enveloping Long Zun. At this moment, Long Zun's body shook. At this moment, she suddenly felt a strand of lethal danger. Swallow for me. The white-eyed wolf roared. Long Zun immediately felt that his cultivation was actually beginning to slip away. Although it was very slow, he could clearly feel it. What was going on? The white-eyed wolf's battle soul has a total of 2 special abilities. These 2 special abilities can be said to be more terrifying than our 10 great battle souls. Qin Feiyang said coldly. What special ability? Long Zun was surprised. It was actually more terrifying than the 10 great battle souls. The first one is to deprive the opponent of their battle soul, and it's a permanent deprivation. In other words, as long as your battle soul is deprived by it, you will lose your battle soul forever. The second one is to deprive your cultivation. And it's also a permanent deprivation. Qin Feiyang said. What? Permanent deprivation. Long Zun's eyes trembled. How could there be such a perverted, special ability in this world? This is not a joke with you. Previously in the Netherworld King's Hell's Divine Forest, when facing those giant beasts, it had already displayed such a heaven-defying ability. The madman sneered. Impossible, impossible, Long Zun shook her head. You have always thought that senior brother Madman and I are the biggest threats to you dragons. But in fact, it's not. The white-eyed wolf, it is the biggest threat to you dragons. Forgive me for the mistakes you have made. Qin Feiyang said expressionlessly. Long Zun suddenly panicked. Never would he have thought that Qin Feiyang was actually still hiding such a terrifying trump card. She felt that the speed of her cultivation was becoming more and more obvious. She was extremely panicked. Her great circle imperishable realm cultivation base was her greatest reliance. If her cultivation was really deprived, even if it was just a small realm, it was enough to kill her. Because Qin Badian, Lu Zhengyang, Supreme Cloud, and Supreme Beast were all at the great perfection imperishable stage. Not to mention these four, even Qin Feiyang and the madman had the ability to kill her. So, she absolutely could not let her cultivation fall to the great perfection imperishable stage. Her hand that grabbed Yi Zhong's neck suddenly exerted force and roared, immediately make it withdraw the battle's soul. But whether it was Qin Feiyang, the madman, or the others, they all looked at her silently. Long Zun roared, "You really don't care about your master's life and death?" Qin Feiyang was still silent. He cared. Seeing his master fall into a dead end step by step, he felt more uncomfortable than anyone else. But he cared more about the future fate of the ancient world. Long Zun must die. Good, good, good. I will fulfill your wish now. Long Zun was so angry that she laughed. She grabbed Yi Zhong's arm and tore it off with force. She wanted to use the method of torturing Yi Zhong to force Qin Feiyang to compromise. But Qin Feiyang still had no reaction. Not to mention Qin Feiyang, even the person involved, Yi Zhong, did not have any reaction. It was as if he was numb and did not feel pain. He did not even frown. You are so pitiful. Lu Zhengyang looked at Long Zun and shook his head. Shut up. Long Zun roared and grabbed Yi Zhong's other arm. She stared at Qin Feiyang and roared, I will ask you again. You really don't want it to withdraw the battle soul? Qin Feiyang shook his head. Puchi. Long Zun exerted force and Yi Zhong's other arm was directly torn off. Blood flowed. This is the so-called desperate dog jumping over the wall. Cloud Supreme sneered. Looking at the still indifferent Qin Feiyang, Long Zun roared, Bastard, I will really kill him. Kill him. Qin Feiyang said indifferently. This indifferent attitude made Long Zun go crazy with hatred. But now, she had no other choice. Chapter 2948. Fear and despair drowned her. After ruling the ancient world for so many years, this was the first time she felt so helpless. She couldn't help but look up at the sky and murmur, My son is dead, the dragons are about to die, why haven't you appeared yet? The only thing she could count on now was the ice dragon. But the ice dragon didn't appear. The anger in her heart was ignited, and she roared, I was blind to choose an irresponsible man like you. Boom. As her voice fell, her cultivation suddenly fell to the perfect imperishable realm. Now. Qin Badian roared. Supreme Cloud, Supreme Beast, and Lu Zhengyang rushed into the land of severance like lightning. Supreme Cloud and Supreme Beast attacked Dragon Sovereign. Lu Zhengyang went straight to Yi Zhong. You all deserve to die. The dragons roared, and a space-time storm swept towards the three. But Lu Zhengyang and the other two didn't retreat. Supreme Cloud and Supreme Beast slapped at Dragon Sovereign. Dragon Sovereign, who had fallen to the perfect imperishable realm, also had his strength greatly reduced. Under the joint attack of the two, he was immediately sent flying. At the same time, Lu Zhengyang grabbed Yi Zhong. Then, the three turned around and rushed outside like lightning. You all have to die, accompany me in death. Dragon Sovereign roared, and a space-time storm swept out, drowning the three in an instant and shattering their bodies. Not good. Qin Feiyang's expression changed, and he shouted, Senior Brother Frenzy, activate the Blood Demon technique. Boom. Frenzy immediately activated the Blood Demon technique. Qin Feiyang also activated the battle formula and the Eye of Heaven in an instant, copying Frenzy Qin Baishan's divine techniques at the same time. Because Qin Badian also had a divine technique to increase cultivation, although it could only increase by a small realm, but with the blood demon technique, it was enough to raise his cultivation to the perfect imperishable realm. Then, Qin Feiyang used the movement formula and rushed into the land of severance, breaking into the space-time storm. Nonsense! Madman said furiously. Within the space-time storm, Qin Feiyang's eyes were like torches as he scanned the area ahead. You can go to hell too. Long Zun grinned. The storm roared, emitting world-destroying fluctuations. The armor formed by the battle seal tenaciously withstood the attack of the storm. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. He took a step forward and reached out his hand, grabbing at the void. Then, he retreated out of the domain of severance with lightning speed. In the blink of an eye. All of this happened in an instant. When Qin Feiyang exited the land of severance, the fighting soul formed by the battle word art was torn apart, revealing the bloody body. In just an instant, the battle character art had reached its limit. One could imagine how terrifying the space-time storm was. Although they were both third profound divine abilities, the space-time storm was much more powerful than the radiant sacred sword of the law of light. Where are they? Madman and Qin Badian looked at Qin Feiyang and asked. Here. Qin Feiyang opened his palm, and 4 strands of divine soul appeared. That's right. After entering the space-time storm, he only saw these 4 strands of divine soul. These were the divine soul of Yizhong, Cloud Supreme, Beast Supreme, and Lu Zhengyang. If he had entered a little later, even if it was just a little later, he wouldn't have been able to protect these 4 strands of divine soul. This time, Qin Feiyang truly witnessed the terror of the space-time storm. It was indeed worthy of being one of the strongest laws in the world. However, as long as the 4 strands of divine soul were protected, it wouldn't be a big problem. Qin Feiyang immediately sent the 4 strands of divine soul into the Black Tortoise realm and guarded the Fire Lotus well. Then, he looked at Long Zun. Long Zun was extremely gloomy at this moment. Because now, not only had she lost Yizhong as a bargaining chip, the white-eyed wolf was also continuing to deprive her of her cultivation. Ancestor, now that her cultivation has fallen to the perfected imperishable realm, can you kill her? Qin Feiyang looked at Qin Badian and asked. Qin Baishan's cultivation was at the perfected imperishable realm under the enhancement of the divine art. In other words, Qin Badian was now stronger than Long Zun. The mermaid princess and the demon ancestor, who were standing in the sky, also landed beside Qin Feiyang and looked at Qin Badian. No. The space-time storm is very difficult to deal with. That is, unless her cultivation drops by another minor realm. Qin Badian shook his head. Continue. Qin Feiyang looked at the white-eyed wolf and said. The anger that had been suppressed in his heart finally exploded. Around. The battles on the various battlefields were also nearing the end. The strongest dragons were Long Zun, the various ancestral dragons, and the dragons' patriarchs. But the patriarchs had already been killed at the beginning of the battle, leaving only their divine souls. The various ancestral dragons also died one after another, leaving only their divine souls. Now, even Long Zun was trapped in the land of severance, so the strongest dragons on the various battlefields were only at the initial imperishable realm. And the 108 generals of the Dragon Slayer Palace had all reached the initial imperishable realm. The Ice Emperor and the Rain Emperor had even reached the greater imperishable realm. There were also Wang Chang, Yang Li, Wang Ming, the Old Woman, and the others. With their support, how could the dragons be a match for the Dragon Slayer Palace? Divine dragons continued to die one after another. Looking at the various battlefields, the ground was littered with divine dragon corpses, and blood flowed like rivers. Senior brother Crazy, to avoid any more trouble, let's go to the Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon Space Divine item now. Qin Feiyang said in a low voice. Okay. Crazy nodded. White-eyed wolf, ancestor, I'll leave this place to you. Qin Feiyang said to the white-eyed wolf and Qin Batian and prepared to enter the space divine item. But at this moment, a destructive aura exploded in the land of severance. They hurriedly looked at Longzuan and saw him standing in the center of the space-time storm, his aura surging. He was about to self-destruct. You guys, retreat. There are others, you must retreat immediately. Qin Batian hurriedly shouted. With the space-time storm, no one could stop Longzuan from self-destructing. And although Longzuan's cultivation had fallen to the perfected imperishable realm, if he self-destructed, it would still destroy the world. People on the various battlefields would suffer. Let's die together. Longzuan smiled sinisterly, and his body suddenly exploded. Everyone, retreat immediately, the farther the better. Qin Feiyang immediately shouted and led Qin Batian, Crazy, the white-eyed wolf, the mermaid princess, and the demon ancestor into the black tortoise realm. At the same time, Wang Cheng, Yang Li, Wang Ming, the Ice Emperor, and the Rain Emperor sensed the fluctuations of the dragon's self-destruction and their expressions changed drastically. They roared, Run! Immediately. Everyone from the Dragon Slayer Palace immediately used their extreme speed and fled into the sky like lightning. The remaining divine dragons of the dragon tribe were also fleeing frantically. However, they were not as lucky as the Dragon Slayer Palace. Because the Dragon Slayer Palace's people were always in peak condition with the help of the Mermaid Princess Eye of Life. However, these mystical dragons were all heavily injured from the battle. Because of their injuries, their speed naturally could not be compared to the Dragon Slayer Palace's people. As Qin Batian retreated, the land of severance dissipated, and the fluctuations of Longzuan's self-destruction instantly surged in all directions. Mountains collapsed, the earth cracked, and the sky collapsed. Accompanied by screams, the remaining dragons died tragically one after another under the fluctuations. Not even their bones were left behind. Inside the Black Tortoise realm. When Qin Feiyang and the others saw this scene, they couldn't help but worry for Wang Ming and the others. This old witch is really decisive. If we were a step later, her cultivation would have fallen to the perfected imperishable realm. At that time, even if she self-destructs, she won't be a threat to us. White-eyed wolf shook his head. If she had a choice, would she self-destruct? Madman sneered. A cold light flashed in Qin Feiyang's eyes. He looked at Qin Batian and said, Ancestor, stay here and pay attention to the situation outside. When the fluctuations dissipate slightly, go out and find Wang Ming and the others. Okay. Qin Batian nodded. Senior brother Madman, let's go to Black Dragon Ancestor Dragon Space Treasure. I think Longzuan must have left his soul before the battle. We have to eliminate him completely. With a wave of his hand, Qin Feiyang immediately brought senior brother Madman to the sky above a majestic mountain. This was Black Dragon Ancestor Dragon Space Treasure. Qin Feiyang was no stranger to this place, because he had already been here when he entered Divine Dragon Island last time. But unlike last time, there were countless dragons in this space treasure. They were dragons below the indestructible realm. Before the battle, Black Dragon Ancestor Dragon had sent them all here. Because their cultivation had not reached the indestructible realm, they were not qualified to participate in this battle. Moreover, there were also the crystal veins and soul veins of Divine Dragon Island. All the crystal veins and soul veins of Divine Dragon Island were here. The energy of the crystal veins and the soul veins here had reached a rare level. It's Qin Feiyang and Madman. On the ground below, all the dragons gathered together and looked at Qin Feiyang and Madman in horror. There were many children and old people. These children were naturally transformed from young dragons. Every face was filled with fear. At the same time, there were also real humans. They were the ones who had not reached the indestructible realm among the million people. At this moment, they were also terrified. Whether it was in their eyes or in the eyes of the dragons, they all thought that Longzuan would win. However, they never expected that the final winner would be Qin Feiyang. However, Qin Feiyang and Madman did not pay attention to them. Their divine sense rolled out and instantly enveloped the entire space divine item. Soon, they found the sovereign divine weapon. But the sovereign divine weapon was heavily damaged and was also terrified at this moment. Qin Feiyang and Madman also ignored the sovereign divine weapon and searched for the souls of Longzuan and the others. According to the usual style of dragons, the dragon god below the indestructible realm would leave their souls in the sacred mountain. In other words, if these souls were not erased, then all the dragons of the indestructible realm would be reborn again. But at this moment, they could not find the souls of these people. And even the princess of the dragons was nowhere to be seen. What's going on? Madman was surprised. Qin Feiyang's face was also extremely gloomy. Why couldn't they find the souls of dragons and the others and the princess of the dragons? Suddenly, Qin Feiyang looked at a perfected indestructible divine dragon and grabbed in the air. That person immediately flew uncontrollably in front of Qin Feiyang and Madman. Tell me, where are the princess of the dragons and Longzuan's souls now? Qin Feiyang shouted. I don't know. The divine dragon kept shaking his head. If you don't tell me, I'll kill you. Qin Feiyang shouted. I really don't know. The divine dragon was trembling in fear. Say, do you think their souls are hidden in the body of a human or a divine dragon, just like the sovereign beast? And the princess of the dragons? Did she disguise herself and mix in with the crowd? Madman frowned. Chapter 2949. When Qin Feiyang heard this, he pondered for a while and said, that's the only possibility. Immediately after, he lowered his head and glanced at all the dragons and humans. Madman raised his eyebrows and said, how long will it take to check them one by one? There were at least tens of millions of dragons in the entire dragon clan. Those humans were also as many as 1,000,000. There was no way to ask them one by one. Right. Don't you have the puppet technique? Madman looked at Qin Feiyang and asked. Qin Feiyang said, the puppet technique also needs to be read one by one, which is more troublesome. Then what should we do? Madman said. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. Suddenly, a wisp of killing intent emerged. I promise to give the Prince of Dragons and leave behind a bloodline inheritance for you dragons. In other words, I don't intend to kill all of you. But if you insist on protecting the souls of the dragon's princess and revered dragon, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Qin Feiyang spoke with a bone-chilling tone. Whether it was the dragons or humans, they couldn't help but shiver. Now, please take the initiative to tell me, where are they hiding? Qin Feiyang said. But no one at the scene spoke. All right. You asked for it. Killing intent surged in Qin Feiyang's eyes. A blood-colored sword appeared, and a monstrous killing intent instantly enveloped the entire space. We really don't know. Qin Feiyang, let us go. We are the same kind as you. You can kill the dragons, but can you let us go? Those humans immediately spoke. You? Qin Feiyang looked at the 1,000,000 people coldly and said, you deserve to be killed more than the dragons. Clang. As the sword fell, tens of thousands of people's blood splattered across the sky. That bloody scene made everyone, all the dragons couldn't help but tremble, their faces pale. I'll give you one last chance. Revered dragon, princess dragons, ancestral dragons, I will give you one last chance. If you don't want the dragons to go extinct, come out now. Qin Feiyang bellowed. His murderous aura shot through the clouds like a god of death, causing everyone to tremble. Everyone fell into panic and despair. No one dared to doubt Qin Feiyang's words. If he said it, then he would definitely do it. However, the princess of the dragons, the revered dragons, the ancestral dragons, the chiefs of the clans, and the imperishable realm dragons didn't show up. Who? Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and said, I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. I'm sorry. Clang. The blood-red sword left his hand, and a world-destroying sharpness immediately surged in all directions. Ah, the mystical dragon that had been captured by Qin Feiyang was the first to die with a blood-curdling scream. Let us go. We really don't know where they are. Those humans were terrified as they knelt on the ground and begged. The dragons were also terrified to the extreme. Seeing that the divine soul of Long Zun and the others still hadn't appeared, Qin Feiyang's brows also crept up with an astonishing amount of hostility. You forced me to do this. All of you, go to hell. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang bellowed, and the blood-red sword instantly shattered the sky and smashed towards the ground below. It was useless to say anything now, because his patience had reached its limit. Ah, mournful screams immediately resounded in all directions. One by one, the humans and the divine dragons were constantly engulfed by the blood-red sword's sharpness. Blood dyed the mountains and rivers. You are a beast. All of a sudden, a roar sounded. Qin Feiyang looked towards the direction of the voice and saw a human standing in the crowd, looking at him with resentment. Compared to you guys who are willing to be the dragon's lackeys, I think I still have a good conscience. As his voice fell, a wave of sword chi swept out, and that human died on the spot. Sigh. The one you want to find is me, let my clansmen go. Suddenly, accompanied by a sigh, a woman flew out from the crowd. Qin Feiyang looked at her suspiciously. The woman shook her body, and a sky dragon suddenly appeared. I thought you could keep hiding. Qin Feiyang sneered. That's right. This person was the princess of the dragons. The princess of the dragons said, let my clansmen go, if you want to kill them, I'll do it. What about your mother and the other's divine soul? Qin Feiyang said. I really don't know about that. The princess of the dragons said. Then there's nothing to say. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Finally, the blood-red sword blasted into the ground below. No, the princess of the dragons suddenly roared. The remaining clansmen didn't even have an undead realm expert. How could they block the blood-red sword? She just watched as her clansmen died one by one under the blood-red sword. In just an instant, this spatial divine object was destroyed in an instant. All the humans and dragons died, and the air was filled with the pungent smell of blood. Qin Feiyang, you bastard, I won't let you go even if I die. Accompanied by a series of roars, 11 divine souls rushed out from the dust and charged towards Qin Feiyang. You finally appeared. Qin Feiyang looked at those divine souls. Whether it was the voice or the aura, it proved that these divine souls were Long Zun and the ancestral dragons. As for the other undead realm experts, they had already turned into ashes along with the dragons and humans. After all, their cultivation was not as good as the 10 ancestral dragons and Long Zun, so they couldn't withstand the blood-red sword. Mother, the clansmen are all gone. The princess of the dragons flew over, her tone was filled with sadness. Then let him be buried with the clansmen. Long Zun's killing intent sword. Buried with them? Madman was slightly stunned and sneered, what kind of dream are you having in broad daylight? Qin Feiyang also smiled coldly. Boom. The two of them took a step forward. Blood Demon Technique, Eye of Heaven, and Heaven-Defying Technique were all activated at the same time. They were like two gods of war. Wherever they went, the void collapsed crazily. Clang. As the blood-red sword and halberd swung out, thousands of sharp lights suddenly surged out. Ah, accompanied by a series of screams, the divine souls of the 10 ancestral dragons were also annihilated. The princess of the dragon's body was also instantly shattered. Her divine soul was protected by Long Zun. If you were willing to come out earlier, how could the dragons be extinct? Qin Feiyang looked coldly at Long Zun and attacked again. Enough. Just as the mother and daughter were about to die under the sword, a sigh sounded. Qin Feiyang and Madman were startled. They looked up at the sky and their expressions changed drastically. There was an ice dragon more than a meter long in the sky. Father! The princess of the dragons hurriedly shouted. You still know to come back? Take a look yourself. None of our clansmen are left. The dragons are completely gone. Long Zun didn't have the slightest joy. There was only anger and grievance. I have already told you to be kind to humans, but you didn't listen. What can I do? Help you deal with them? If I really did that, then not only our clansmen, even I wouldn't be able to escape death. Ice Dragon sighed. I don't want to hear it. Long Zun roared. Ice Dragon glanced at Long Zun, then looked at Qin Feiyang and Madman. It's time to end this. You think it's over just because you said so? Qin Feiyang roared and attacked Long Zun and Princess of the Dragons again. The ice dragon waved its claw, and a streak of divine power descended. The blood-colored longsword was immediately shattered, and Qin Feiyang was also sent flying. Father, quickly kill him! Princess of the Dragons shouted. But Ice Dragon turned a deaf ear to her. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, It seems that you really want to kill me. That's right. Not only you, but also small beast. Sooner or later, I will kill all of you. Qin Feiyang stared at Ice Dragon gloomily. Okay. I will wait for you at the 4th level of the miracle. With that, Ice Dragon waved its claw and disappeared with Long Zun and Princess of the Dragon's divine soul. It left just like that? Madman looked at the void in a daze. He thought that Ice Dragon would kill them to avenge the dragons. But in the end, it didn't do anything. Not good. Quickly return to the Black Tortoise world. Suddenly, Madman's gaze trembled as he looked at Qin Feiyang and shouted. Because they were now in the Black Tortoise world. And since Ice Dragon could enter the ancient pagoda, it meant that he could enter the Black Tortoise world. The Black Tortoise world was their headquarters. If Ice Dragon were to cause trouble in the Black Tortoise world, the consequences would be unimaginable. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang's gaze trembled slightly. He immediately brought Madman and appeared in the sky above the Devil's Land. But the Devil's Land was very calm. Qin Feiyang closed his eyes again. His perception extended infinitely, inspecting the entire Black Tortoise world. Everything else was normal as well. How is it? Madman asked. It's fine. Qin Feiyang shook his head. What happened to you? Fire Lotus and the others flew up and asked in surprise. Madman asked, Did you see Ice Dragon just now? Ice Dragon. Everyone was shocked and asked, Ice Dragon appeared? Yes. He saved Long Zun and Princess of the Dragons. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. Then he didn't do anything to you, right? Fire Lotus looked at the two of them worriedly. No. The two of them nodded. That's good. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Qin Badian asked, What about the other dragons? Killed them all. Only Long Zun and Princess of the Dragons escaped. Qin Feiyang said. Fortunately. Qin Badian exhaled and said with a smile, Then it means that the battle is over. It's not over. Qin Feiyang shook his head. What's wrong? Qin Badian was surprised. Long Zun is not dead. And Ice Dragon also brought Long Zun and Princess of the Dragons to the 4th floor of the miracle. I'm afraid that they will make a comeback sooner or later. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but frown. Buzz. At this moment, Qin Baishan's image crystal rang. Qin Badian was slightly stunned. He took out the image crystal, and a shadow appeared. It was the Rain Emperor. How's your situation? Qin Badian quickly asked. We're all fine. What about you? Rain Emperor asked. We're fine too. Qin Badian nodded. Qin Feiyang stepped forward, looked at Wang Ming and Yang Li, and asked, Did you see Ice Dragon? Ice Dragon? The two of them were stunned and shook their heads. No, what's wrong? Nothing. Let's talk about it later. Tell me the location. I'll go and find you now. Qin Feiyang said. We're near the North Sea. Wang Ming gave Qin Feiyang the coordinates. Then, Qin Feiyang, Qin Batian, and Madman left the castle and rushed in the direction of the North Sea. Chapter 2950. Woo woo, the wind raged and waves of air surged, emitting a destructive aura. These were the fluctuations left behind by Long Zun's self-destruction. Qin Badian protected Qin Feiyang and Madman as they shuttled through the void. Ancestor, wait. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang spoke. Qin Badian slammed on the brakes and looked suspiciously at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang swept his gaze over the shattered and devastated land below, and a trace of bewilderment crept into his eyes. What's wrong? The more Qin Badian looked, the more puzzled he became. Senior brother Madman, the Prince of the Dragons, was buried here, right? Qin Feiyang looked at Madman and asked. Prince of the Dragons? Madman was slightly surprised as he looked down, then glanced around and nodded, yes, it's here. Qin Feiyang immediately released his divine sense and shrouded the ground below. Immediately. His eyes trembled as he frowned. How could there be nothing? Nothing? Madman and Qin Badian heard this and immediately released their divine sense to search the ground below. Sure enough, they didn't find the body of the Prince of the Dragons. What's going on? Madman was surprised. Qin Badian said, could it be that his body was already crushed by the power of Long Zun's self-destruction? It shouldn't be. Although the power of Long Zun's self-destruction is indeed terrifying, but at such a distance, even if it was affected, there should be some broken body parts. Qin Feiyang said. That's right. After all, the Prince of the Dragon's cultivation isn't weak, it wouldn't be easy to completely destroy his body. Madman nodded. Speaking of this, Qin Feiyang and Madman looked at each other as a figure appeared in their minds at the same time. Ice Dragon. Qin Feiyang said, it seems that Ice Dragon took his body away. That's the only explanation. But to be honest, his death is really regretful. Madman sighed. He is indeed an admirable person. Unfortunately, he was born among the dragons and had no other choice. Qin Badian said. This is fate. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang and the other two simultaneously raised their heads and looked in the direction of the inland sea. Although they were very far away from the inner sea, they could still feel the fluctuations of the battle between the Ice Dragon Holy Sword and the ancient castle. However, just a moment ago, the shockwaves caused by the clash between the two sovereign weapons suddenly disappeared. Could it be, the Ice Dragon is in the inner sea now? If that was the case, then wouldn't the castle be very dangerous? Qin Feiyang said solemnly, I'll go to the inland sea. You guys go look for Wang Ming and the others. Whoosh. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a streak of black light pierced through the air and appeared before the three of them like a bolt of lightning. It's the castle. Qin Feiyang's spirits were lifted. Whoosh. Before long the castle flew in front of them. At this moment, the ancient castle was also covered in cracks. It was obvious that it was caused by the battle with the Ice Dragon Holy Sword. It could be imagined. How terrifying was the Ice Dragon Holy Sword? Qin Feiyang asked, has the Ice Dragon Holy Sword been taken away by the Ice Dragon? There was no response from the castle. Qin Feiyang laughed bitterly. After being together for so many years, the ancient castle just didn't communicate with him. But the key point was, the ancient castle had communicated with the Sunset Bow and other heaven-defying divine artifacts. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but smile helplessly, and bowed. Thank you, you can go and recuperate first. Shwa. At that moment, the ancient castle disappeared without a trace. Qin Feiyang immediately sank his mind into the Black Tortoise realm, and saw that the ancient castle had already appeared in the Devil's Land. The Ice Dragon Holy Sword is a sovereign weapon. It's a pity that it was taken away by the Ice Dragon. Qin Badian said regretfully. Madman nodded. Suddenly, his spirits were lifted as he looked at Qin Feiyang and said, wait a minute, when the Ice Dragon saved Long Zun and Princess Long, it didn't take away the Dragon God's sword? Qin Feiyang was stunned, and immediately brought Madman and Qin Badian into the ancient tower. The ancient tower was filled with a pungent smell of blood. Qin Badian couldn't help but frown when he smelled the smell of blood. Ancestor, don't blame me. I had already promised the Dragon Prince that I would leave behind an inheritance for the dragons, but Qin Feiyang briefly explained the situation at that time. So that's how it is. Qin Badian nodded in realization and sighed. It's not your fault, it's Long Zun and the others who are too heartless, actually using their own clansmen as a cover. Qin Feiyang released his divine sense, enveloping the entire space divine artifact. At that moment, a trace of surprise crept into his eyes. Madman also released his divine sense, and his face sank slightly. What's wrong? Qin Badian asked. I didn't find the Dragon God's sword. Madman said. Qin Badian was surprised. Then didn't you just say that Ice Dragon didn't take the Dragon God's sword away? At that time, we indeed didn't see him take the Dragon God sword away with our own eyes. Qin Feiyang said. Qin Badian also released his divine sense, and after searching for a while, shook his head. Needless to say, he must have taken it away. If you didn't see it, it can only mean that Ice Dragon's strength is too heaven-defying. No one knows. That bastard, he's too careless. We are the victorious side, can't he leave us some spoils of war? Madman was extremely angry. Careless? Qin Badian shook his head and laughed. The Dragon God's sword is a Dominator divine weapon, it might not be a good thing to keep it by your side. Are you crazy? That's a Dominator divine weapon, how is it not a good thing? Madman frowned. It's because it's a Dominator divine weapon that I said that. Think about it, the Dragon God's sword is so strong, who can subdue it? If we can't subdue it, it's really not a good thing for us. Because it's too strong, when it recovers and returns to its peak state, it'll be enough to wipe us all out in an instant. Qin Badian said. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang nodded in agreement. Ancestor is right, even the revered dragon can't control the Dragon God's sword, let alone us. Keeping it by our side is tantamount to a ticking time bomb that can explode at any time, so it's good that Ice Dragon took it away. Madman pursed his lips. He didn't deny this point. Because at that time, he also witnessed the entire process of Qin Feiyang and the Dragon God's sword's battle. It could be said that Qin Feiyang used all his strength to destroy the Dragon God's sword. But even so, he still felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, all right, you have the Blood Demon Tower, there's no need to think about other people's things. The Blood Demon Tower is after all a heaven-defying divine artifact. Madman said. Are you disdaining it? If you dislike it, give it to me, I don't dislike it. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Scram. Madman glared at him. I knew you wouldn't be willing to part with it. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said with a smile, don't worry, with your and my abilities, sooner or later, divine artifacts like the Sunset Divine Bow will also evolve into sovereign divine weapons. That's true. Madman nodded, his face full of pride. Qin Badian said with a smile, actually, it's not like we don't have any spoils of war. Look at the crystal veins and soul veins underground. That's right. There were many crystal veins and soul veins underground. These were the crystal veins and soul veins of Divine Dragon Island. When Qin Feiyang attacked and killed the dragons, he paid special attention, so these soul veins and crystal veins weren't damaged. To them, this was also a huge treasure. Then let's go and find Wang Ming and the others. Qin Feiyang led the two of them out of the ancient pagoda and flew toward the North Sea at lightning speed. In the north, in a dilapidated mountain range, thousands of people had gathered. It was Wang Ming and the others. Dragon Sovereign self-detonated. The fluctuations of the ancient castle and Ice Dragon's sacred sword have also dissipated. Does this mean that this battle can be declared over? Someone said. We can't let our guard down. Because when he sent the message just now, young master mentioned Ice Dragon. You may not understand Ice Dragon's strength, but I have seen it with my own eyes. Yang Li said in a deep voice. Yang Li had followed Qin Feiyang to the end in the Nether King's hell, so he naturally knew Ice Dragon's strength. Someone asked, how strong is he? I don't know how strong he is. But I know that if Ice Dragon attacks, even if all of us join forces, we won't be enough to kill him. Yang Li said. Everyone's hearts sank when they heard this. This was really not good news. The dragons had suffered heavy losses this time. As the dragon god of the dragons, how could Ice Dragon sit by and do nothing? Don't worry, Ice Dragon has already left. At this moment, a faint laugh sounded. Qin Emperor. Everyone immediately looked up and saw Qin Feiyang and the other two flying through the air. The group of people hurriedly went up to greet them. Rain Emperor immediately asked, Qin Emperor, you said that Ice Dragon has already left? Yes. Qin Badian nodded and said with a smile, and he left the ancient world. Left the ancient world? Everyone looked at each other. Xia Yuan asked, so he won't come back in the future? This. I'm not sure. Qin Badian said and turned to look at Qin Feiyang. At this moment, everyone also looked at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said with a smile, I think he won't come back. If Ice Dragon would come back, he wouldn't have said before leaving that he would wait for him on the 4th floor of the miracle. Really? Ice Emperor said. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Huh, everyone looked at each other and laughed. This was the joy of victory. The rule of the dragons had finally been broken, and humans could finally be the masters. Yes. We've won this battle. In the future, there will be no dragons in the ancient world, no more bullying. We can do whatever we want, we are free, Qin Feiyang said with a smile. We won, we are free. Heroes who died in battle, you can rest in peace. They had been waiting for this day for too long. It could be said that everyone who joined the Dragon Slayer Palace had been waiting for this moment. And now, this moment had finally arrived. The excitement and joy in their hearts could not be concealed. Some people couldn't help but cry tears of joy. Thank you, young lord. Thank you, brother Frenzy. Suddenly, someone looked at Qin Feiyang and Frenzy and said gratefully. This is the result of everyone's concerted efforts. Why are you thanking us? Qin Feiyang and Frenzy looked at each other and shook their heads with a smile. No. If it wasn't for your leadership, if you didn't defeat the Prince of the Dragons, we wouldn't have had any hope of defeating the dragons. You are the greatest contributors. That's right. It was you who fought bravely, defeated the sovereign divine weapon, defeated the Prince of the Dragons. It was you who led us to victory. This courage, this righteousness, we will always remember it in our hearts. I also believe that the creatures of the ancient world will never forget your contributions and efforts to the ancient world. Thank you for your selfless contributions. Thank you. Everyone present bowed to the two of them in unison. Chapter 29:51. This, Qin Feiyang and Madman looked at each other and were about to step forward to dissuade them. Because this battle was indeed not the work of the two of them, but the result of everyone's hard work. And many people had died in this battle. So they couldn't accept this bow. Qin Badian stopped the two of them and said with a smile, just accept it. Ancestor, you, Qin Feiyang frowned. You can accept it. Because without you, not to mention the dragon god's sword, even the sovereign's domain is not something we can break. Qin Badian said with a smile. Qin Feiyang and Madman looked at each other and couldn't help but smile bitterly. Okay. Madman nodded and grinned. Then I'll reluctantly be a hero. Haha, hearing Madman's words, everyone couldn't help but laugh. Back to the topic, did anyone calculate how many of our companions we sacrificed this time? Qin Feiyang said. This was a very heavy topic. Hearing this, everyone fell silent with a trace of pain between their eyebrows. As long as it's a war, there will be sacrifices. But I believe that these companions who died in battle won't have any complaints. I also believe that they will be happy with us when they learn of this victory in the netherworld. Qin Feiyang said. Yes. We shouldn't be sad. It wasn't easy to win, we should be happy. Xia Yuan nodded. Yes. The others nodded as well. Wang Ming looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Young master, we've calculated that more than 2,000 of our companions died in this battle. More than 2,000, Qin Feiyang murmured, put up a monument for them so that future generations will remember them forever. More so, future generations will remember that it was their sacrifice that brought about today's peace and prosperity. Yes. Wang Ming nodded respectfully. Also, those who have parents, wives, and children, we must treat their families well. They are all heroes. We must not let their families suffer. Qin Feiyang said. Yes. Wang Ming nodded. All right then. Let's enter the Black Tortoise world to recuperate first. Once we've recuperated, we'll discuss the next step of our plan. Qin Feiyang smiled. Next step? Everyone was stunned. What other plans did he have? Qin Feiyang smiled and said, of course it's the living beings that are being transferred to the 4 major regions. I see. Everyone suddenly understood. With a wave of his hand, Qin Feiyang sent everyone to the Black Tortoise world. Outside, only Qin Feiyang, the lunatic, and Qin Badian were left. Qin Feiyang stood high up in the sky and looked around at the broken earth. He shook his head and said, war is really heartless. Yeah. What a great piece of land. Yet, it's been ravaged to such an extent. I truly hope that such a war will never happen again. Qin Badian said. That's impossible. Where there are only living creatures, there will definitely be disputes, battles, and bloodshed. The lunatic said. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, that's true, but as long as we have a clear conscience, it's fine. A clear conscience, Qin Badian and the lunatic looked at each other, and they couldn't help but smile. That's right. Nothing in this world is absolute. As long as you are worthy of yourself, your conscience, and the people of the world, it's fine. After the battle ended, there was devastation everywhere. Perhaps after a few hundred years, today's unprecedented battle would slowly be forgotten by people. But the scars left on this land would never disappear. It would take hundreds or even thousands of years for this land to regain its former glory. Qin Badian retracted his gaze and looked at Qin Feiyang with a smile. Let's go and pick up Sword Emperor and the others. Qin Feiyang nodded. The 3 of them opened an altar and were about to leave. Brother Feiyang. Suddenly, Lin Yi's voice sounded in the sky. Qin Feiyang looked up and saw the sloppy old man with Lin Yi descending from the sky. Qin Feiyang and the other 2 recognized each other. They quickly greeted and bowed, thank you, Senior, for your help. If the 4 guardians were to open the heavenly prison and seal off divine land, they might not be able to stop the dragons. No. It's this old man who wants to thank you for giving the ancient world a peaceful and prosperous era. The sloppy old man waved his hand. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. He asked curiously, what about the other 3 guardians? They are more afraid of strangers. The sloppy old man smiled. Afraid of strangers? Qin Feiyang and the lunatic were stunned. Old thing, I knew you would speak ill of us behind our backs. Suddenly, accompanied by a displeased voice, it sounded in the sky. Qin Feiyang and the other two quickly looked up and saw three figures descending from the sky. The first person was an old woman with white hair. She was skinny and holding an old crutch. The second person was an old man in white. He looked as old as the sloppy old man, but he was dressed very cleanly. White hair, white beard, and white clothes fluttered, exuding an otherworldly aura. The third person was a thin middle-aged man, also wearing a snow-white robe, holding a jade flute in his hand, exuding an elegant aura. Old man? A cry of surprise sounded. The madman stared at the sage-like elder in white with a shocked expression. N? When Qin Feiyang heard it, he immediately turned his head to look at the lunatic. What's going on? Does senior brother lunatic know the old man in white? The three of them landed beside the sloppy old man. The white-haired old man also looked at the lunatic with a smile. Little lunatic, are you surprised? Is it really you, old man? The lunatic looked at the old man in a daze. Old man? Little lunatic? Qin Feiyang looked at the lunatic and the white-haired old man with a trace of surprise in his eyes. When the white-haired old man heard the words old man, the corner of his mouth twitched, and he said angrily, how can you be so rude? TSK. The lunatic raised his middle finger and said, it really is you, old man. Cough cough. The white-haired old man coughed and looked at the sloppy old man, the thin middle-aged man, and the white-haired old woman. He then looked at the lunatic and said angrily, there are so many people here, can you give me some face? You shameless old man, do you still want face? The lunatic's face was full of disdain. But then, the lunatic ran in front of the white-haired old man and cried, old man, I thought I would never see you again. You're crying? The white-haired old man was surprised. Am I? The lunatic quickly rubbed his eyes and said, it's sand in my eyes. Brat. The white-haired old man shook his head and laughed. He raised his old hand and rubbed the lunatic's head. He said with a smile, not bad, you've grown a lot after coming to the divine land. You didn't embarrass me. Of course. The lunatic smiled proudly. I said you're fat, and you're really panting? The white-haired old man rolled his eyes. Qin Feiyang looked at the lunatic and asked, senior brother lunatic, don't you want to introduce him? What's there to introduce? The lunatic pouted and said, he's the old man who gave me the heaven-defying technique. So it's him. Qin Feiyang's heart trembled, and he hurriedly bowed and said, greetings, senior. No need to be so polite. The white-haired old man smiled and looked at Qin Feiyang for a while. He said with a smile, you're indeed a dragon among men. Thank you for taking care of this lunatic during this time. He took care of me? Old man, don't blame me, I've always taken care of him, okay? The lunatic immediately stared at the white-haired old man with dissatisfaction. Huh, the white-haired old man shook his head and laughed, your shameless character really hasn't changed at all. Didn't I learn it from you? The lunatic said. The white-haired old man's face suddenly turned black, and he said angrily, don't ruin my reputation. You still have a reputation? The lunatic sneered, and then looked at the white-haired old man strangely. What are you looking at? The white-haired old man was suspicious. The lunatic said, don't tell me that you are the guardian of the 4 major regions? Why? Don't I look like one? The white-haired old man shook his clothes and looked at the lunatic proudly. The lunatic looked at him seriously for a while, shook his head, and said, no, you look like a shameless old bastard. Brat, are you looking for a beating? The white-haired old man was so angry that he glared at lunatic. Qin Feiyang, Qin Batian, the sloppy old man, Lin Yi, the white-haired old woman, and the thin middle-aged man were all stunned. This old man and young man got along really differently. Hee hee. The lunatic grinned and said, "Are you really the guardian of the 4 major regions? Nonsense. Without me, can this heavenly prison be opened? If you are not the guardian of the 4 major regions, can you enter this heavenly prison freely?" The white-haired old man rolled his eyes. "Damn, you hit it well. After being together for so many years, I didn't realize that you are an expert." The lunatic was surprised. "So, the older the ginger, the spicier it is." The white-haired old man smiled proudly. TCH, the lunatic cast a contemptuous look again and asked, "Then why did you suddenly leave? You have walked out of the shadow of your adoptive father's death. Why should I accompany you?" The white-haired old man said. The lunatic looked at the white-haired old man in a daze. After a long time, he said, "Old man, thank you. I will be filial to you in the future and send you off. At least you have a conscience." Hearing the first half of the sentence, the white-haired old man was quite gratified, but when he heard the word "send you off," he suddenly trembled with anger and roared, "Brat, see if I don't spank your ass today. Come on, come on." The lunatic made a face and turned to run. The white-haired old man shook his head and smiled bitterly. He looked at Qin Feiyang and the others and said, "I've made a fool of myself. It's fine, it's fine. Continue." The white-haired old woman looked at him mockingly. "Only you like to gloat." The white-haired old man was speechless. "Now this is interesting." The white-haired old woman chuckled and said, "But then again, after being together for so many years, this is the first time we have seen you dote on a junior so much. Don't say any more. This is all my fault for provoking such a little lunatic. Now I can't get rid of him even if I want to." The white-haired old man shook his head and sighed. Although he said so, his eyes were full of love when he looked at the lunatic. It was like the eyes of a grandfather looking at his grandson. It was obvious. The lunatic's position in his heart was not ordinary. Chapter 2952. Seniors, what's going on with this heaven prison? It's actually so strong. Qin Feiyang looked at the sloppy old man and the other 3 and asked curiously. The sloppy old man smiled and said, "Heaven prison is formed by the ancient world's rule force." Rule force? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Yes. As guardians, we can naturally control the ancient world's rule force. The sloppy old man nodded. Control rule force? Qin Feiyang was taken aback and frowned. Since you can control rule force, you should be able to defeat Long Zun. If it's just Long Zun, of course we can use rule force to defeat her. But you also know that there's a dragon god behind Long Zun. You also know how powerful this dragon god is. We don't dare to offend him. So, we can only trap Long Zun in divine land. The sloppy old man said. Is that so? Qin Feiyang nodded in realization. Indeed. Ice Dragon's strength had already surpassed the constraints of this world. Rule force was no threat to him. Although you have known Ice Dragon for a long time and have clashed with him many times, his strength is not something you can imagine. If possible, this old man advises you not to look for him again. The sloppy old man said. Thank you for your concern, senior, but there are some things this junior must do. Qin Feiyang said. This old man knew you would say that. And even if you put aside the past grudges, you must go now. The sloppy old man shook his head. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. If he really put aside the past grudges, there was no need for him to provoke Ice Dragon again. The sloppy old man glanced at Qin Feiyang and Qin Badian and sighed. You guys still don't know that your companions have also been taken away by Ice Dragon. Companions? Taken away by Ice Dragon? Qin Feiyang and Qin Badian looked at each other. That's not right. Everyone was here. No one was taken away by Ice Dragon. Think about it carefully. Is there anyone who hasn't reunited with you? The sloppy old man said. Qin Feiyang and Qin Badian lowered their heads and muttered to themselves. Suddenly, Both of them shuddered. They looked at the sloppy elder and asked, "Are you talking about the Mermaid Emperor and the others?" "Yes." The sloppy old man nodded. The two of them were stunned. How could they be taken away by the ice dragon? Actually, when we opened the heavenly prison and sealed off the divine land, the four of them were already prepared to come and help you. Because of the heavenly prison seal, we don't have to worry about the dragons harming the creatures of the four major regions. And they all have heaven-defying divine artifacts. If they rush over to help, they will definitely be of great help in this battle. But right at that moment, the ice dragon appeared. The sloppy old man said. Both Qin Feiyang and Qin Haodong's eyes trembled. Madman frowned. So Ice Dragon has been here for a long time? Yes. He appeared when the heavenly prison opened, but he didn't make a move. As for your four companions, they were also imprisoned by him. When he left, he also took them with him. The reason why I didn't tell you at the beginning was that Ice Dragon was staring at us, and we didn't dare to interrupt. Secondly, I didn't want you to be frightened. After all, Ice Dragon is too powerful. If you know that he is here, you will definitely panic. The sloppy old man said. This is impossible. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Lin Yi sighed, Brother Feiyang, we saw it with our own eyes. The Mermaid Emperor and the others were really taken away. Damn it. Damn it. Qin Feiyang clenched his fists suddenly. Qin Baishan's face was also gloomy. The Mermaid Emperor, Sword Emperor, Black-Winged Emperor, and White-Winged Emperor were all his brothers who had been following him. No matter what difficulties they encountered, they had never been separated. But now, they were taken away by Ice Dragon. How could he not be worried? Madman glanced at Qin Feiyang and Lin Yi and roared, "Let's go. Let's go to the fourth floor now." Fool. The white-haired old man suddenly scolded, with your current strength, it's already so difficult to deal with dragons, let alone Ice Dragon. If you go to the fourth floor now, you are courting death. But if you are taken away by Ice Dragon, you will die. Qin Feiyang's heart demon and eldest cousin died in the underworld king's hell because of this. Madman said gloomily. The white-haired old man shook his head and said, even so, this old man will not allow you to go to hell now. If I want to go, can you stop me? Madman snorted coldly. You can try. The white-haired old man said. Enough. Qin Feiyang roared as he drew in a deep breath. He turned his head and glanced at Qin Batian before turning to Madman with a smile, Senior Brother Madman, thank you for your kind intentions. But this is our own matter. Even if we have to go to the Netherworld King's hell, we should do it ourselves. Why? After defeating the dragons, you want to burn the bridge after crossing the river? Don't you treat me as a brother? Madman frowned. Qin Feiyang sighed, you know that's not what I mean. I know that you don't want me to take the risk, but let me tell you, since we are already brothers, then we will be brothers for life. No matter what enemy you encounter in the future, I will support you and stand with you. Madman said. Qin Feiyang looked at Madman in a daze. He was extremely touched and smiled, thank you. No need to be so polite. Madman patted Qin Feiyang's shoulder and looked at Qin Batian, heaven helps the worthy, don't be too anxious. Who? Qin Batian took a deep breath, looked at the sloppy old man and the other three, and cupped his hands, thank you for telling me. We can only inform you. You have to work hard to save them. The white-haired old woman said. They are my brothers, my family, I will not abandon them. Qin Batian said word by word. The white-haired old woman smiled, turned to look at the sloppy old man and the other two, and said, then let's go. Okay. The three nodded. Brother Feiyang, you have to take care. Lin Yi said. Qin Feiyang nodded and said with a smile, if you have time, go home and take a look. Go home, Lin Yi murmured, with a hint of loss in her eyes. She knew that the home Qin Feiyang mentioned was Great Qin. But what's the point of going back? No one remembers, and there is no sense of belonging at home. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, although you don't remember everyone, everyone still remembers you. As long as you feel it with your heart, you will definitely feel everyone's concern for you. Okay. Lin Yi nodded and turned away with the sloppy old man. Old man, don't go. I still have something to ask you. Madman shouted quickly. You know what you want to ask? But this old man won't tell you. Find the answer yourself. The white-haired old man said with a smile without looking back. Is there anyone as irresponsible as you? Madman said angrily. Then you think this old man is an irresponsible old man? The white-haired old man smiled and gradually disappeared into the sky. With the departure of the 5 people, the heavenly prison also dissipated. Voila! Heavy rain suddenly poured down. It turned out that the sky was raining at this time. The heavy rain fell, washing everything. Qin Feiyang and the other 2 were also instantly drenched. But the 3 turned a deaf ear and looked up at the sky. Madman was thinking, what is my origin? Why did the old man give me the heaven-defying divine secret art, and why did he send me to hell? As for the question that Qin Feiyang and Qin Batian were thinking, it was naturally the Mermaid Emperor and the others. Although the battle in the ancient world had ended, there was a new battle waiting for them. And this new battle was more difficult than this battle. Ancestor, I'm sorry, after a long time, Qin Feiyang spoke, and there was a trace of self-blame on his face. It was him who asked the Mermaid Emperor and the others to guard the 4 entrances, so the responsibility was on him. It's not your fault. Qin Batian shook his head. Enough. There's still a long way to go. Let's take it one step at a time. Madman retracted his gaze and looked at the 2 with a smile. Qin Feiyang and Qin Batian were silent for a while, then nodded lightly. The storm lasted for half a month, washing away all traces of the battle. After the storm, everything gradually recovered, and the earth gradually regained its vitality. 1 year later. Black Tortoise World. 1 year outside was more than 30,000 years in the Black Tortoise World. On this day, Qin Feiyang finally walked out of the ancient castle. After that battle, everyone was recuperating in the Black Tortoise World. Qin Feiyang had also been in seclusion. Although his cultivation didn't break through, his law power had improved a lot. He had a feeling that he would soon comprehend the first profound thaumaturgy of the law of karma and law of thunder. You're out. Fire Lotus appeared above the herb field and smiled at Qin Feiyang. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and asked, how is everyone? They're all good. Fire Lotus nodded. What about Ancestor? Qin Feiyang asked. He's been in seclusion, so I didn't see anything wrong. Fire Lotus said. That's good. Qin Feiyang breathed a sigh of relief and said, by the way, how are Master and the others? They have also condensed a complete God soul and are now rebuilding their bodies. Fire Lotus said. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, what Long Zun did was a great blow to Master, you have to comfort him. Don't worry about that, Yi Qing, Shui Er, and Old Man Yi are always with him. Fire Lotus smiled. All right. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, I'll take you to the tower. Saying so, the 2 of them appeared inside the tower. Although so much time had passed, the tower was still filled with the pungent smell of blood. Fire Lotus looked down and asked, if Long Zun and the other ancestor dragons had come out of their own accord, would you really have left a legacy for the dragons? Yes. After all, this was my promise to the Prince of Dragons. Although he was already dead and didn't hear my promise, I still had to do it. Unfortunately, Qin Feiyang shook his head. I believe that the Dragon Prince will not blame you in the underworld. Given his magnanimous nature, he will not blame you. Fire Lotus smiled. The dead can't come back to life, so there's no point in saying this. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the spirit vein and crystal vein hidden underground tore open the ground and rose into the air. So much? Fire Lotus was shocked. There were at least 2 to 3 million spirit veins and crystal veins in front of them. This is the foundation of the dragons. But now, it belongs to the Black Tortoise realm. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and brought Fire Lotus, as well as all the spirit veins, to the sky above the Devil's Land. Chapter 2953. Fire Lotus glanced at the Devil's Land and smiled bitterly. No matter how many spirit veins and crystal veins there are, it's useless, it can't hold them all. Then give it to the creatures of the Black Tortoise world. Qin Feiyang laughed. Indeed. The spirit veins and crystal veins of the Devil's Land had long reached a saturated state. But the Black Tortoise world was not just the Devil's Land. There was also the East Domain, North Domain, and South Domain. This time, the greatest credit for defeating the dragons was not him and the madman, nor was it the castle or the slaughter zone, but the creatures of the Black Tortoise world. It was them who provided a large amount of blood that allowed the slaughter zone to stack to the level of a sovereign divine weapon. It was also their combined efforts that broke the seal of the castle. So, they were the ones who should be thanked the most. Fire Lotus chuckled. Now your prestige in the Black Tortoise world has surpassed Pai Lupi and the others. Is that so? Qin Feiyang was surprised. And while you were fighting outside, they were also watching from inside until the end of the battle. Watching you risk your life for the ancient world, for the people of the world, they are full of respect for you in their hearts. Fire Lotus said. Watching the battle the whole time? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. When we asked them to help break the seal of the castle, they made a request, which was to watch the entire battle. At that time, the situation was critical, so Little Brat agreed to them. Fire Lotus said. So it's like that. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization. Actually, this is also good. In the past, they only knew that there was someone like you in the Black Tortoise world, but they didn't know much about you. But now, after this battle, they have a new understanding of you. And they know what kind of person you are. So this can be considered a good thing. Fire Lotus laughed. Makes sense. Qin Feiyang nodded. Fire Lotus said, then you can give them the crystal veins and soul lines yourself. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly as he scanned the surroundings and said, Friends, I'm Qin Feiyang, immediately. This voice reverberated in the minds of every living being in the Black Tortoise world. This is the Lord Ruler's voice. In an instant, everyone was boiling with excitement. Everyone, please be quiet and listen to me. Qin Feiyang's voice sounded again. Quiet, quiet. Listen to the Lord Ruler. Everyone quieted down. In an instant, the entire Black Tortoise world fell into a dead silence. You may not have heard of dragons in the past, but I believe that you all know about them now. They are the rulers of the ancient world, and have been for countless years. But they are tyrannical, cruel, and heartless. They view all living beings as ants, causing the entire ancient world to be in an abyss of suffering. In the face of such a rule, how can we sit back and do nothing? Although I, Qin Feiyang, also kill people like trees, in my eyes, whether it is humans or beasts, they have always been equal. There is no noble or lowly. So, I want to help the living beings of the ancient world. But the dragons are too strong, so strong that even I can only despair. But, I am not afraid. Because I have a backer, and this backer is you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Because it was you who helped me defeat the dragons, it was you who brought peace to the ancient world, and it was also you who have always supported me, helped me, and protected the common people of this world. I, Qin Feiyang, hereby promise that as long as I am here, the Black Tortoise world will always be peaceful. You are all my family, and I will protect you with my life. Qin Feiyang did not say these words very loudly, and could even be said to be very calm, but all living beings were incomparably moved. There was only one word in their hearts now, and that was worth it. They were also very lucky to have such a ruler. Qin Feiyang gently waved his hand, and all the crystal veins and spirit veins instantly disappeared from the sky above the Devil's Land. In the next moment, these spirit veins and crystal veins appeared in every corner of the Black Tortoise world. This is a small token of my appreciation. But I hope that there will be no snatching or embezzlement. Because these spirit veins and crystal veins do not belong to anyone, and are the common property of everyone in the Black Tortoise world. I hope that everyone can put aside their selfishness and grudges, and let the Black Tortoise world continue to be peaceful. We will be united, and we will not be separated. Whether we know them or not, whether they are humans or beasts, we will all treat them as our family. I really do not hope that our Black Tortoise world will become the next ancient world. I beg of everyone here. This is not only my, Qin Feiyang's, home, but also your home. In the future, let us protect this home together, okay? Qin Feiyang said in a sincere tone. Lord Ruler is right, the Black Tortoise world is our common home. No matter who it is, they are our compatriots. We must work together to protect this home. That's right. Everyone saw the disaster of the ancient world with their own eyes. A war, blood stained the earth, and the ones who suffered were the innocent people. So, we must protect the Black Tortoise world and cherish everything we have now. Everyone spoke one after another. Compared to the people of the ancient world, they were much luckier. For example, the spirit veins and crystal veins had always been given to them by Qin Feiyang, and he had never taken the initiative to look for them. Thank you again, everyone. I wish everyone a happy life in the future. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he looked at Fire Lotus and smiled. What a group of cute people. Yes. The living beings of this land are worthy of our protection. Fire Lotus smiled and asked, what about the western regions? What should we do now? The western regions. Qin Feiyang pondered and did not say a word. Right now, there is still a lot of blood in the western regions. Why don't we just use the western regions to store blood in the future? Fire Lotus asked. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, you can do as you see fit. But as soon as he finished speaking, Qin Feiyang regretted it. Why did he regret it? Because by saying that, it was equivalent to tying Fire Lotus to the Black Tortoise world. One had to know. Fire Lotus was the palace master of the Nine Heavens Palace. She had her duties. He couldn't be so selfish and keep Fire Lotus in the Black Tortoise world forever. Qin Feiyang asked tentatively, girl, now that the dragons have been destroyed, what are your plans? Fire Lotus said, what other plans can I have? Let's just continue. How? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Fire Lotus said, just like usual, let's just live like this. Qin Feiyang understood. This girl had no intention of leaving the Black Tortoise world at all. Qin Dage, are you trying to chase me away? Fire Lotus looked at Qin Feiyang in confusion. No, no. Qin Feiyang hurriedly waved his hand and said, I just want to say, after all, you are the palace master of the Nine Heavens Palace. Now that the battle is over, shouldn't you go back and take a look? Aren't you trying to chase me away? Fire Lotus pursed her lips. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly and said, I really didn't. I'm more than happy that you can stay, but I can't be so selfish. Fire Lotus shook her head and smiled, to be honest, it's time to go back and take a look. Then let's leave immediately. Qin Feiyang said. Fire Lotus was stunned and said, why are you in such a hurry? It's not me who's in a hurry, it's the people of the 4 major regions who are in a hurry. Think about it, it's been a year. Those who moved to the 4 major domains must be looking forward to it. Qin Feiyang smiled. You're always thinking about others. Instead, you keep delaying your own matters. Fire Lotus shook her head. What can I do? Qin Feiyang smiled. Of course. The battle is over. Shouldn't you consider giving the mermaid girl a status? Fire Lotus said. Qin Feiyang was stunned. She's following you without any complaints. You can't let her down. Fire Lotus said. Qin Feiyang looked at the mermaid princess residence and nodded with a smile. Yes, it's time to give her a status. The 4 major domains. Just as Qin Feiyang thought, those who moved to the 4 major domains were looking forward to it every day. There were even many people who took root by the sea and looked in the direction of the divine land all day long. At the same time, the people of the 4 major domains, such as Shengguan Fenglan, the pavilion master of the treasure school, and the first elder, all knew about the battle between Qin Feiyang and the dragons. They were also looking forward to it. 9th Heaven Palace. It's been a year. Why hasn't there been any news? The first elder stood at the top of the mountain below the stairway to heaven, looking at the sea of dragons with a worried face. You have to come here several times a day. Are you tired? Elder Wei looked at him speechlessly. Aren't you worried at all? The first elder frowned. What should I be worried about? I'm not like you. I don't have a grandson in the divine land. Elder Wei said lightly. You're too heartless. Little lunatic is my grandson, so he's also your grandson. Can't you care about him? The first elder said angrily. You're wrong. When can you share your grandson? Elder Wei pursed his lips. You old bastard. The first elder glared at him. Why are you still scolding me? Elder Wei said angrily. Scolding you is too light. Don't you know how little lunatic and Qin Feiyang treat our 9th heaven realm? I've never seen someone as heartless as you. The first elder snorted. Are you really anxious? Elder Wei was stunned. How can I not be anxious? The first elder said. Okay, it's my fault. Elder Wei shook his head helplessly and said, actually, you don't have to worry. They'll be fine. How can you be sure that they'll be fine? The first elder frowned. Think about it. If they really died in the battle, will the dragons let us go? Even if they let us go, they won't let the people of the divine land go. But look, the dragons haven't sent anyone here yet. What does this mean? It means that the battle may not be over yet. It's also possible that the dragons have died. Elder Wei said. It's been a year. How can it not be over yet? As for the dragon's death, if the dragons are really dead, why haven't Qin Feiyang and the others come back yet? The first elder frowned. Maybe, Elder Wei was about to speak when he suddenly looked up at the sky with a trace of surprise in his eyes. Then, a smile crept onto his face and he said, They're back now. They're back? The first elder was stunned. He quickly looked up and his face was full of joy. Chapter 2954. In the sky above, a mighty divine power emerged out of thin air. Clang. Following that, accompanied by a deafening noise, a stone door appeared, and 2 figures walked out side by side. Who else could it be but Qin Feiyang and Fire Lotus? First elder and Elder Wei hurriedly went up to greet them. Long time no see. How have you been? Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said with a smile. Looking at these 2 old men, he felt extremely close to them. Elder Wei shook his head and said, We're doing very well. We don't have to worry about food and clothing. You, on the other hand, made us worry for a whole year. Cut the crap. Who won the battle between you and the dragons? First elder asked. This, Qin Feiyang looked at first elder and stammered. On the side, Fire Lotus looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. What was there to hesitate about? Say it. First elder urged. Looking at Qin Feiyang's reaction, Elder Wei could not help but panic. Sigh. Qin Feiyang sighed softly, and a trace of sadness crept up between his eyebrows. Looking at this scene, Elder Wei and Elder Wei's eyelids suddenly twitched. Look, it's Qin Feiyang. He's back from divine land. The sound of the spacetime gate alarmed many people. When everyone rushed over and saw that it was actually Qin Feiyang, they could not help but be excited. A year ago, when the people of Divine Land moved to the 4 major regions, everyone already knew what Qin Feiyang was doing in Divine Land. This was a magnificent feat, an existence worthy of admiration. Qin Feiyang. It's really him. More and more people came. Those who were squatting on the coast also swarmed over. They were all from Divine Land. In just 100 breaths, this place became a sea of people. So many people came so quickly. Qin Feiyang was stunned. This means that you have a great influence now. Fire Lotus transmitted with a smile. She had been wearing a mask all this time, and her aura was also concealed. That was why the first elder and Old Wei didn't recognize her. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. What the hell are you doing? Why are you still hesitating? Fire Lotus looked at him in confusion. Qin Feiyang chuckled and said, I just wanted to play with the feeling of my heartbeat. Ugh. Fire Lotus looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. How old are you? Why are you still so childish? It's really him. Shangguan Fenglan had also come, and so had all the elders. Regardless of whether they used to hate Qin Feiyang or liked Qin Feiyang, they all had joyful smiles on their faces at this moment. Because now, they all knew that Qin Feiyang was fighting with the dragons in the Divine Land. Just this point alone was worthy of their respect. Why is it only the 2 of you? Shangguan Fenglan looked at Qin Feiyang and Fire Lotus and asked. This, Qin Feiyang was still hemming and hawing. Seeing this, everyone present, like the first elder and Old Wei, felt their hearts skip a beat. Qin Feiyang, say something. What's the situation in the Divine Land now? Can we still go back? The people of the Divine Land couldn't wait any longer and roared. Sigh. Qin Feiyang sighed, bent down, and lowered his head. I'm sorry, I've let everyone down. What? Hearing this, everyone's expression froze. Did he fail? The first elder asked, what about Lunatic? Senior brother Lunatic, Qin Feiyang was silent for a moment, then sighed and said, he also died in battle. The first elder suddenly felt like he was struck by lightning, and his body shook violently. Old Wei quickly stepped forward to support the first elder. Only Fire Lotus and I escaped, the others all died in battle. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry, I didn't protect everyone. Qin Feiyang wept bitterly. You're too into the role. Fire Lotus looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. Then what should we do now? The dragons are still the rulers of the ancient world, we can never go back. The people of the Divine Land couldn't help but look at the Divine Land, their faces full of sadness. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry, Qin Feiyang blamed himself. What about Huai? Shangguan Fenglan asked. Qin Feiyang looked at Shangguan Fenglan and sighed, he also died in battle. Shangguan Fenglan's eyes trembled, and tears suddenly streamed down her face. Qin Dage, it seems that she really has feelings for Huai. Fire Lotus looked at Shangguan Fenglan and transmitted her voice. Yes. Qin Feiyang replied secretly. Fire Lotus rolled her eyes and transmitted her voice. Qin Dage, I have an idea. What is it? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Huai was worried that his identity would be exposed and Shangguan Fenglan wouldn't accept him. We might as well play a little trick now and poke a hole in this layer of window paper. Fire Lotus said secretly. Qin Feiyang heard this, pondered for a while, and transmitted his voice. If we can really help Huai, it's a good thing. Okay, you plan it, I'll cooperate with you. Okay. Fire Lotus responded secretly, looked at Shangguan Fenglan, and sighed. Before Huai died, no one mentioned him, except for you. What did he say? Shangguan Fenglan looked at Fire Lotus with tears in her eyes. He said, it's a pity that he couldn't give you a happy home in this life. He said that he let you down. If there is an afterlife, he will definitely protect you well. Fire Lotus said. Yes. Qin Feiyang also nodded and said, he died in my arms. Even in death, he has always been thinking about you. He told me that he really wanted to see you one last time, but, don't say it, don't say it. Shangguan Fenglan shook her head, she was already in tears. Elder Wei had just comforted the first elder, and hurriedly went forward to comfort Shangguan Fenglan. Because Shangguan Fenglan was his disciple. And he had always treated her like a daughter. And he also knew Hui Yi's true identity. Originally, he was still thinking about how to solve this matter. Because he knew this disciple, if she knew that Hui Yi was the deputy palace master, it would definitely be difficult for her to accept it. But he didn't expect that now he would receive bad news about Hui Yi. Fire Lotus sighed and said, there's one more thing he asked us to tell you. What is it? Shangguan Fenglan's eyes were dull. Fire Lotus said, he wants us to apologize to you on his behalf. He has nothing to be sorry about. Shangguan Fenglan shook her head. He has. He hid his identity from you. Fire Lotus said. What's his identity? Shangguan Fenglan was stunned and looked at Fire Lotus suspiciously. Fire Lotus said, his identity is the deputy palace master of Nine Heavens Palace, Xiaoyao. What? Hui Yi is our deputy palace master? What's going on? Isn't he the deputy palace master's disciple? The people of Nine Heavens Palace were suddenly in a commotion. Especially the first elder and the others, their faces were filled with disbelief. That's right. Hui Yi is your deputy palace master. Elder Wei has long known about this. Fire Lotus said. The first elder turned to stare at Elder Wei and asked, Elder Wei, is this true? Master, Shangguan Fenglan also raised her head and looked at Elder Wei. Not only them, but all the people of Nine Heavens Palace present were looking at Elder Wei at this moment. Elder Wei glanced at everyone, nodded and sighed, it's true. How can it be the deputy palace master? This must be a dream. Everyone shook their heads. Some even roared. The fall of the palace master back then had already brought a devastating disaster to Nine Heavens Palace. Now that even the deputy palace master had died in battle, what would happen to Nine Heavens Palace in the future? So, they couldn't accept this matter. Fire Lotus looked at everyone in grief and transmitted her voice, Qin Dage, have we gone too far? Qin Feiyang looked at everyone, gritted his teeth, and transmitted his voice, for Hui Yi's happiness, continue. All right. Fire Lotus secretly responded. Looking at Shangguan Fenglan, she said, although he lied to you, his feelings for you are real. He said, please forgive him. Then why didn't he tell me earlier? Shangguan Fenglan roared. He was afraid that you wouldn't be able to accept him after knowing, so he kept it a secret. He was also afraid of losing you. Qin Feiyang sighed. Shangguan Fenglan smiled sadly and shook her head, it's too late to say anything now. Then, have you forgiven him? Fire Lotus asked. He's already dead, what's the point of being calculative? Shangguan Fenglan shook her head. Fire Lotus asked, then are you still willing to be with him? If he's not dead, I'm willing. Shangguan Fenglan murmured. Really? Fire Lotus said. Shangguan Fenglan nodded, her expression incomparably lonely. Fire Lotus laughed, Hui Yi will definitely be happy to hear this. Can he hear it? He can't hear it. Shangguan Fenglan shook her head, turned around and walked towards the sky stairway, her back view looking incomparably desolate. Great Elder and the others also had a mournful look on their faces. Great Elder, you have to pull yourself together. The Palace Master and Deputy Palace Master are both gone, you are the pillar of our Nine Heavens Palace. The disciples below shouted. Pillar, Great Elder shook his head and smiled sadly. But at this moment, a voice suddenly sounded in the void. Shangguan Fenglan's delicate body trembled. This voice, Great Elder, Elder Wei, and everyone in Nine Heavens Palace immediately looked towards the direction of the voice. They saw that there was suddenly an additional person beside Qin Feiyang and Fire Lotus. Who else could this person be but Huai? Huai? No. It's the Deputy Palace Master. What's going on? Didn't Qin Feiyang say that the Deputy Palace Master is dead? Why did he appear? Could it be a ghost? Everyone was bewildered. Huai ignored everyone, stepped onto the sky stairway, and quickly ran behind Shangguan Fenglan, saying, Lan, I heard everything, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have lied to you, I should have told you my identity long ago. Shangguan Fenglan's body and mind trembled. That's right. This was his voice. The tears in her eyes suddenly couldn't stop gushing out. Seeing his beloved woman not turning around, Huai was at a loss for a moment. Hurry up and act. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. How do we act? Huai was puzzled. You always say that I'm a block of wood, but I think you're the real block of wood. Hug. Qin Feiyang was secretly annoyed. Hug. Huai was taken aback and secretly said, will this work? Even if it doesn't work, it has to work. Whether or not it works depends on now. Qin Feiyang said. All right. Huai gritted his teeth and reached out to hug Shangguan Fenglan from behind. Shangguan Fenglan's delicate body trembled again. I'm sorry. I've made you sad. Huai blamed himself. Let go of me, you liar, you actually lied to me. Shangguan Fenglan struggled hard. I won't let go for the rest of my life. Huai shook his head and hugged her tightly. Since it was already like this, he didn't care if the other party was angry. Chapter 2955. Hearing Huai's confession, Shangguan Fenglan could not help but secretly rejoice. But her face became colder and colder, and she said angrily, let go. I won't. What if you run away? Huai shook his head like a rattledrum. I won't run. Shangguan Fenglan said helplessly. I don't believe it. Huai said. Don't make me angry. Shangguan Fenglan shouted. You're cute when you're angry. Huai chuckled. You're so mushy. I didn't expect the Vice Palace Master to have such a terrifying side. What do you know? This is the power of love. Goosebumps appeared on everyone's skin. Hurry up and let go. So many people are watching. What a scandal. Shangguan Fenglan was really anxious. Especially when there were many disciples of the Nine Heavens Palace here. How could she face them in the future? Let's just watch. We're open and above board. What are you afraid of? Huai simply displayed his shameless spirit. You're not afraid, but I am. Shangguan Fenglan was burning with anxiety. But Huai's cultivation was strong. No matter how hard she tried, she could not break free. She was angry and happy at the same time. She asked, then why did you lie to me? Didn't Qin Feiyang and the others just say that they were afraid that you wouldn't accept me after I confessed to you? So they kept it from you. Huai said. That's not what I'm talking about. Shangguan Fenglan said angrily. Then what are you talking about? Huai was suspicious. What I'm talking about is, why did you let them lie to me that you're dead? Shangguan Fenglan said angrily. I really didn't ask them to do this, they made the decision behind our backs. I swear, if there's even half a lie, I'll be struck by lightning. Huai said. Shut up. Nothing, why are you swearing? Shangguan Fenglan reprimanded. Hee, you feel sorry for me. Huai said with a smile. No. Shangguan Fenglan shook her head. Forgive me, I promise, I won't lie to you again. Huai said. Then let me go first. Shangguan Fenglan said. No. Huai shook his head. If you keep doing this, I'll really get angry. Don't come looking for me in the future. Shangguan Fenglan said angrily. When Hui heard this, he quickly let go of his hand. Shangguan Fenglan tidied up her messy clothes and turned to look at Hui. Looking at this familiar face, her eyes couldn't help but tear up. Don't cry. I'm a little afraid. Hui looked at her in panic. Shangguan Fenglan looked at Hui's helpless appearance and couldn't help but laugh. So beautiful. Hui was stunned. Shangguan Fenglan's cheeks reddened, and she couldn't help but roll her eyes at Hui. You really don't know? Yes. Hui nodded. Then, he glared at Qin Feiyang and Lin Ming and angrily said, it's all because they made the decision on their own. They tricked you into shedding so many tears. Have some conscience. Fire Lotus rolled her eyes. Hui smiled embarrassedly, then looked at Shangguan Fenglan and said, Lan, when are we getting married? Get married? Shangguan Fenglan was stunned. Qin Feiyang and Fire Lotus were also stunned. Although one had to strike while the iron was hot, this was too fast. Cough cough. Suddenly, there was a dry cough. Everyone looked at Elder Wei. Deputy Palace Master, you're no longer a child. Can you pay attention to your impression? Besides, Fenglan is this old man's disciple. Shouldn't she get my consent first? Elder Wei looked at Hui and said. You still need to get your consent? You old man, are you tired of living? You even dare to meddle in my affairs? Hui raised his eyebrows. How can you talk to my master like that? Shangguan Fenglan frowned. I'm joking, don't be angry. You know, I've always talked to him like this. Actually, I respect him in my heart. Hui quickly smiled apologetically. Shangguan Fenglan looked at him helplessly. Hui stepped forward, wiped the tears on Shangguan Fenglan's cheeks, and said, I'm sorry, I really didn't mean to lie to you. It's all in the past. Shangguan Fenglan shook her head. Someone said, excuse me, are you really the Deputy Palace Master? Hui stood on the sky stairway, looked at the disciples below, and said, it's the real deal. After saying that, he took a facial restoration pill, and quickly restored his true appearance. It's really you. Haven't you been fooling around all day? The great elder immediately said angrily. Cough cough. Can you leave me some face? Hui coughed dryly. You still want face? The great elder was furious. Hui chuckled, then his face turned solemn, and said, the joke has been made, and Lan has also forgiven me. Now, I'll tell you all a great news. What good news? Everyone was suspicious. We won. In the current ancient realm, there are no more dragons. Hui shouted loudly. What? Won? Everyone was stunned and couldn't help but look at Qin Feiyang and Fire Lotus. I'm sorry, I was indeed joking with everyone just now. Qin Feiyang first smiled apologetically, and said, we really won. Friends of the Divine Land, you can go back at any time. Really? Everyone looked at Qin Feiyang in a daze. It's absolutely true. Qin Feiyang nodded. Everyone looked at each other, and then cheered. Some people even couldn't wait to fly to the Sea of Heavenly Dragons. The great elder looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, what about little lunatic? Qin Feiyang and Fire Lotus looked at each other and smiled. As Qin Feiyang waved his hand, lunatic immediately appeared out of thin air. Old man. Lunatic glanced at the crowd around him, looked at the great elder, and grinned. The grand elder immediately ran over and looked up and down, left and right. After confirming 3 times, he grabbed the madman's hand and cried tears of joy. I'm still alive, aren't I? Why are you crying? Lunatic whispered. Can't I be happy? The great elder roared. Okay. Lunatic nodded. His expression was full of helplessness, but his heart was very warm. Looking at this scene, Elder Wei couldn't help but smile. Then he looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "You're joking too much." Qin Feiyang scratched his head and looked rather embarrassed. Elder Wei shook his head and laughed, and asked, "Then how many of you are still alive?" "Most of us survived, but many of us also sacrificed." Qin Feiyang sighed. "This is a war, and it's unavoidable. As long as we win, it's fine. And those who sacrificed, I believe they have no regrets." Elder Wei comforted. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded and said, "I don't want to say anything else. I just hope that everyone can cherish this rare peace now." "We will." Elder Wei nodded and looked at the Great Elder, saying, "Hurry up and greet them. Don't let them stand here all the time." "Yes, yes, yes." The Great Elder nodded. Looking at Qin Feiyang and the others, he smiled and said, "Let's go back and talk." "Then let's go." Qin Feiyang smiled. The group walked up the sky stairway. The disciples blocking the way retreated to the side and looked at Qin Feiyang and the others with admiration. Dragons, who in the ancient world didn't know? They were the rulers of the ancient world. Even the big shots of the Nine Heavens Palace had to bow their heads in front of the dragons. And now, they were actually destroyed by these people. It was really admirable. Elder Wei looked at the surrounding crowd and said with a smile, "Everyone, disperse." With that, he left the peak for the first time and flew up. Nine Heavens Palace. In a secluded courtyard. This was the residence of the Great Elder. In the courtyard, the Great Elder asked everyone to sit down and personally made tea. Before the tea was ready, accompanied by a few whistling sounds, 3 figures landed in front of the courtyard. "Why are you guys here?" The Great Elder looked at the 3 and was stunned. "Do I have to report to you first?" They were Shangguan Xiu, the Pavilion Master and Vice Pavilion Master of the Treasure Pavilion. The Great Elder said with a smile, "It's only right to report. After all, this is the Nine Heavens Palace, not your Treasure Pavilion." "Old man." The Pavilion Master of the Treasure Pavilion scolded and led Shangguan Xiu and the Vice Pavilion Master into the courtyard. "Senior." Qin Feiyang stood up and bowed. "No need to be so polite, no need to be so polite." The Treasure Pavilion's Pavilion Master hurriedly stepped forward to stop Qin Feiyang. He said, "Strictly speaking, we should be the ones bowing to you. After all, it was you who led everyone to destroy the dragon race and return peace to us." "Yes. Thank you for your hard work." The Vice Pavilion Master nodded and then looked at Hui, Frenzy, and Fire Lotus. "And you guys? You're too polite." Fire Lotus smiled. "Sit down." The Great Elder said and everyone sat in a circle. Shangguan Xiu looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Are the dragons really gone?" "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. "Is everyone all right?" Shangguan Xiu asked. "Everyone is fine." Qin Feiyang smiled. "That's good." Shangguan Xiu nodded and looked at Qin Feiyang. She seemed to want to say something, but she swallowed it in the end. Qin Feiyang took a sip of tea and looked at everyone. "We came back this time not only to tell you this news, but also to tell you something else." "What is it?" Everyone looked at him in confusion. Qin Feiyang looked at Fire Lotus. Fire Lotus smiled and slowly took off her mask. "What?" The Great Elder, Vice Pavilion Master, Shangguan Xiu, Shangguan Fenglan, and Frenzy all stared at Fire Lotus. "That's right. Fire Lotus is your palace master." Qin Feiyang smiled. They looked at each other. "What's wrong? Even the palace master can't recognize her?" Hui frowned. No, the Great Elder hurriedly waved his hand and looked at Fire Lotus. He muttered, "This is too unexpected. Let's calm down first." Yes. In their eyes, the palace master was long dead. So now that Fire Lotus suddenly revealed her true appearance in front of them, they found it hard to believe. The Great Elder finally calmed down. He looked at Fire Lotus carefully and asked, "Are you really the palace master?" "Yes." Fire Lotus nodded. "But you," the Great Elder frowned. "It was Qin Dage who saved me." Wu Yan gave a simple account of her encounter with Qin Feiyang, as well as what happened after they met. "I see." Everyone was enlightened. "The reason why I disguised myself and followed Qin Feiyang was actually because of Palace Master." Hua Yi continued. Everyone looked at Hua Yi, the Great Elder, Elder Wei, and Shengguan Fenglan. They quickly got up and knelt on the ground, respectfully saying, "Greetings, Palace Master." "Greetings, Palace Master." Shengguan Xiao, the Pavilion Master, and Vice Pavilion Master also quickly got up and bowed. Fire Lotus smiled slightly and said, "There are no outsiders now. No need to be so polite." Chapter 2956. Great Elder and the others stood up with tears in their eyes. Hua Yi chuckled and said, "You old men are actually so pretentious." "Is this pretentious?" "It's called happiness." Great Elder glared at Hua Yi before looking at Qin Feiyang and Madman, "And you guys, you actually hid such an important matter from us." "Old man, I'm innocent. I really didn't know about this. I only found out about it now." Madman pointed at Hua Yi and said in dissatisfaction, "I didn't even know that he was the Vice Palace Master before." "What's wrong with letting you know?" Hua Yi said. "Fine, you guys are ruthless." Madman glared fiercely at Hua Yi. Old Wei shook his head and said, "Qin Feiyang, you're sending us to hell and then to heaven." "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "You first told us that everyone died in battle. Isn't that sending us to hell? Then the Vice Palace Master and Palace Master appeared one after another. Isn't that sending us to heaven? At our age, we can't withstand your torment." Old Wei shook his head and sighed. "It's my fault, Qin Feiyang quickly apologized. "However, I'm really grateful to you for saving the Palace Master and taking care of her." Old Wei bowed to Qin Feiyang. Don't. Qin Feiyang quickly held Old Wei and said, "They have been taking care of me all this time." Old Wei glanced at Fire Lotus and Hua Yi, then looked at Qin Feiyang and nodded, "All right, then this old man won't be polite with you. We're all on the same side, there's no need to be polite." Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Old Wei smiled and looked at Great Elder, "You take care of everyone, I'll inform everyone that the Palace Master is back." "Don't." Fire Lotus quickly stopped Old Wei. "What's wrong?" Old Wei looked at Fire Lotus suspiciously. Fire Lotus smiled, "Let's do it as usual." "As usual?" Elder Wei was taken aback. The Great Elder and the others also looked at the Fire Lotus in confusion. Fire Lotus said, "I came back this time mainly to tell you that I'm safe. I don't want too many people to know." "How can this be?" "Now that you've returned, we must announce it. Only then will our Nine Heavens Palace have a backbone." Old Man Wei said. "Don't these people have a backbone when I'm not around?" Fire Lotus asked. This, Elder Wei was at a loss for words. All these years, the affairs of Nine Heavens Palace have been well managed by all of you, and Nine Heavens Palace has become more and more glorious. So, it doesn't matter whether I'm here or not. Fire Lotus smiled. "You are," Elder Wei and the First Elder looked at each other and stared at the Fire Lotus in bewilderment. Sigh. In the meantime, Hua Yi sighed inwardly. Sure enough, it was just as he thought. Fire Lotus no longer intended to be the Palace Lord of Nine Heavens Palace. She was going to be taken away by Qin Feiyang. He had already expected this, but there was still a trace of fantasy in his heart. But now, it really happened. Fire Lotus looked at the two and said, "I'm already used to this kind of life. So, from now on, I'll have to trouble you two to take care of the affairs of Nine Heavens Palace." These words couldn't be more obvious. Not only the first elder and Elder Wei, but Shangguan Qiu, Shangguan Fenglan, the pavilion master, and the vice pavilion master all understood. She was leaving Nine Heavens Palace. Palace Lord, after the battle with the dragons, Nine Heavens Palace finally recovered. Now is the time when we need you. You can't abandon us at this time. The first elder hurriedly said. You're exaggerating. I can see that Nine Heavens Palace is getting better and better. It doesn't matter whether I'm here or not. Besides, aren't there Huai and Madman? Their abilities are all very outstanding. Especially Madman. Do you know how amazing his performance was in the battle with the dragons? It can be said that he alone took 1/3 of the credit. Fire Lotus smiled. Is it that exaggerated? Everyone looked at Madman in astonishment. Of course. Madman smiled proudly, then looked at Fire Lotus and said, Don't think that I'll listen to you just because you flatter me. Let me tell you, I'm not interested in this. Then what are you interested in? Fire Lotus laughed. Aren't you asking the obvious? Madman rolled his eyes. Of course, it was the 4th floor of the miracle. If he didn't know about the miracle, he would have returned to Nine Heavens Palace after destroying the dragons. But it was different now. Knowing that there was a more exciting world, how could he stop in the ancient world? You, Fire Lotus shook her head, then turned to look at Huai. Why are you looking at me? Huai coughed. If not you, who should I look at? Fire Lotus said. Don't force me, okay? You know my personality, I'm a lazy person. It's hard for me to be the Vice Palace Lord, let alone the Palace Lord. Huai said with a bitter face. Fire Lotus said, Who doesn't know your ability? As long as you put your mind to it, there's nothing you can't do. Don't flatter me, I really can't. Huai quickly waved his hand. Fire Lotus raised her eyebrows and said, Are you not going to listen to my words? What do you want? Forcing good into prostitution? Let me tell you, with so many people watching, you won't be allowed to mess around. Huai hid behind Shangguan Fenglan and shouted. Is that so? Fire Lotus rubbed her fists and stared at him with bad intentions. Shangguan Fenglan looked at Fire Lotus and could see that Fire Lotus was determined to leave. She turned to Huai and asked, Do you really want to marry me? Of course, I want to even in my dreams. Huai nodded. Good, as long as you agree to be the palace master of Nine Heavens Palace, I will immediately agree to marry you. Shangguan Fenglan said. This, Huai looked at Shangguan Fenglan in a daze. Fire Lotus was also surprised. Do you agree? Shangguan Fenglan asked. Why are you working with her to torture me? Huai cried out in grief and looked at Qin Feiyang for help. Qin Feiyang drank his tea and pretended not to see. Bastard, you only know how to pretend to be a mute at the crucial moment. Huai cursed in anger. Answer me. Shangguan Fenglan said. Huai looked around. Not only was no one helping him, Frenzy's face was filled with schadenfreude. It seems that you were lying to me. Shangguan Fenglan shook her head and sighed. No. Huai quickly waved his hand and looked at Fire Lotus, saying, You guys are forcing a duck to a perch. Fine, I'll fulfill your wish. You can go fool around with Qin Feiyang. What do you mean fool around? Qin Feiyang said unhappily. Now you finally know how to speak. I thought you were a mute. Huai glared at Qin Feiyang angrily. Men should be responsible, shouldn't they? Qin Feiyang laughed. What a nice way to put it. Come on then. Huai pouted. I'm definitely not cut out for this. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. Even the dragons were destroyed in your hands. Who else can be more capable than you? Huai looked unhappy. I say, what's wrong with you guys? The position of Ninth Heaven Palace Master is so prestigious. Others can't wait to envy you, and you're not happy? The treasure pavilion master couldn't stand it anymore and scolded. Then why don't you do it? Anyway, Sheng Guanxiu is in charge of the treasure pavilion now. You have nothing to do. Hui pointed at the pavilion master again. The pavilion master's mouth twitched. He knew he couldn't speak. Fire Lotus looked at Old Wei and the Great Elder and said, "Now you won't object, right?" The two looked at each other and finally sighed helplessly, "As long as you're happy." They could also tell that Huolian had steeled her heart. If they continued to force it, they were afraid that even Hui would run away. At that time, no one would be in charge of Ninth Heaven Palace. They had always seen Hui's ability in their eyes. He was indeed good, but a little lazy. But now with Shangguan Fenglan restraining him, it should be better in the future. Then it's decided. Fire Lotus chuckled. She held her teacup and looked at Hui with a smile. "Palace Master, I'll use tea as wine to toast you." Hui rolled his eyes at Fire Lotus. He held his teacup and clinked it with Fire Lotus's before drinking it in a fit of pique. Fire Lotus smiled and also took a sip. Her expression was incomparably relaxed. Hui put down his teacup and looked at Qin Feiyang. "As you wish, but let me tell you, you're not allowed to bully her. Otherwise, I won't let you off." "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. He looked at Hui and Shangguan Fenglan and said, "Then when are you going to get married? We're still waiting to drink your wedding wine. You haven't even settled your own matters and you have the nerve to rush us?" Hui looked down on him. "Can't we have a good chat?" Qin Feiyang's face darkened. Hui rolled his eyes and grabbed Shangguan Fenglan's little hand. He smiled and said, Then when are we getting married? Why don't we enter the bridal chamber now?" "Pooh." Qin Feiyang spat out a mouthful of tea. "Isn't this too impatient? Do you want to make a baby tomorrow?" Shangguan Fenglan's cheeks also turned red. She said angrily, "Can you be more serious?" Hee hee. Hui couldn't stop giggling. Next. Qin Feiyang stayed in Jiutian Palace. When he had nothing to do, he would walk around. For a time, life was very comfortable. This morning, Qin Feiyang passed by a lake and happened to see Shangguan Fenglan standing by the lake. "Palace Lord, what are you doing standing here alone?" Qin Feiyang walked forward and asked with a smile. Shangguan Fenglan came back to her senses and asked suspiciously, "Why are you here?" "I just happened to pass by." Qin Feiyang smiled. Shangguan Fenglan nodded and said, "Let me ask you something." "Go ahead." Qin Feiyang held the lake water and washed his face. Shangguan Fenglan asked, "What are your feelings for my sister?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. He got up and asked, "What's wrong with Shangguanxiu?" "Nothing. But I can see that she has something on her mind." "I know." "What's on her mind?" "I think you know it too," Shangguan Fenglan said. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, "To be honest, your sister is a good girl. It's the dream of many men to have her. But I just treat her as a friend, as a sister." Shangguan Fenglan pondered for a while and nodded with a smile. "I understand. You can rest assured that my sister is not like other women. She won't pester you. Thank you for your understanding." Qin Feiyang smiled gratefully. Chapter 2958. Shangguan Fenglan waved her hand and said with a smile, "But you really should think about your marriage. Are you also joining in the fun?" Qin Feiyang was helpless. "This is not a joke. Think about it, if you are already married, will my sister still have a crush on you?" Shangguan Fenglan said. Qin Feiyang was stunned. "I am a woman, so I understand women. Many women say that they don't care if their men have 3 wives and 4 concubines, but in their hearts, they all want to have a complete love. So as long as you are married, no one will provoke you in the future. Shengguan Fenglan said with a smile. Qin Feiyang was enlightened and said with a smile, "Thank you for your reminder, Palace Master." "All right then. It's not easy to be free, accompany her more. Women need companionship and protection." Shengguan Fenglan said. "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded with a smile, then turned and left. Not long after, he met the Great Elder again. The Great Elder was hiding alone in front of a river, drinking tea and fishing at the same time, looking extremely comfortable. "Great Elder." Qin Feiyang greeted with a smile and walked forward. "Why are you here?" The Great Elder was stunned and looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. "Nothing to do, just wandering around." "You are really carefree," Qin Feiyang said with a smile. After the Vice Palace Master returned, this old man was rarely relaxed, so I came here to fish and drink tea. After the Great Elder said that, he took out a small wooden stool and placed it on the ground, saying, "Sit down and talk." "Okay." Qin Feiyang sat on the wooden stool and said, "Where is Senior Brother Madman? I haven't seen him these few days. Who knows where he went to fool around again? He is already so old, yet he is still insensible." The Great Elder shook his head. "If Senior Brother Madman is still insensible, then there is no sensible person in this world," Qin Feiyang said. "It seems that you know him very well now." The Great Elder laughed. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "After all, we've been through fire and water for so many years. Then can you tell me about the battle between you and the dragons in China?" The Grand Elder asked. "Of course." Qin Feiyang nodded and slowly explained. Especially Madman's performance. He described it in detail, but he didn't exaggerate. Seek truth from facts. After hearing this, the First Elder looked at Qin Feiyang in shock and said, "He has become so powerful now?" "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded and said with a smile, "With his strength alone, he almost wiped out the entire dragons. What do you think?" "TSK TSK TSK." The Great Elder couldn't help but be speechless. Still unexpected. Senior Brother Madman has been working very hard. He didn't disappoint you either. Right now, not to mention the northern region, even in the entire ancient realm, he is a peak existence. To be honest, I'm very glad that I'm friends with Senior Brother Lunatic and not enemies," Qin Feiyang said with a smile. The Great Elder shook his head and said with a smile, "I think he should be glad that you're friends and not enemies." Qin Feiyang laughed. "You're all outstanding. In the future, you will definitely become the pillars of the human race in this world. But you can't be proud. You have to continue to work hard," the Great Elder advised. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something and asked, "Have you sent someone to inform the people of the other 3 regions?" "The Vice Palace Master has already sent someone to inform them. Almost all the creatures that were transferred from the Divine Land are now on their way back," the Great Elder said with a smile. "Then I don't have to worry about this," Qin Feiyang said. "You've done enough. Take a good rest for a while," the Great Elder said with a smile. Qin Feiyang nodded, grabbed a fishing rod from the side, and started fishing. He said, "There's one more thing." "What?" The Great Elder was curious. "Senior Brother Feng Zi has also mastered 3 types of law powers," Qin Feiyang said. "Really?" The Great Elder was stunned. "Yes. The law of slaughter, the law of thunder, and the inheritance he obtained in the Nether King's hell. I still don't know about it," Qin Feiyang said with a smile. "This brat's good fortune is not shallow," the Great Elder said with a gratified smile. "Do you still remember the old man who gave Senior Brother Feng Zi a heaven-defying technique?" "Yes, why?" "He's actually the guardian of the 4 regions." "What?" "He's the guardian." "Yes, to be precise, they're the guardians of the ancient world." Because the four of them all control the ancient world's law powers. In the past, perhaps because of the existence of the dragons, they had no choice but to give up the divine land. I see. So I guess that senior brother Feng Zi's background might not be simple. Otherwise, why would the guardians value him? Who cares? My children and grandchildren have their own fortune. I'm just an old man now. The two of them sat by the lakeside, chatting and laughing as if they were two old friends. Another period of time passed. A sensational news spread in Empyrean Palace. Yi Xiaoyao, the deputy palace master of Empyrean Palace, officially took over the position of palace master. The position of deputy palace master was taken over by Shengguan Fenglan. And on the day of the appointment, the two would hold a wedding ceremony at the same time. When this news spread, not only the major forces of the northern region, but also the famous families. Even the major forces of East Tomb, West Desert, and South Wilderness sent congratulatory gifts. On the same day, Empyrean Palace was bustling with noise and excitement. All the famous forces of the four regions sent people to attend the ceremony. Rudong City's Heavenly Cloud Mountain Master. Heavenly Cloud Mountain was the strongest existence in East Tomb. Back then, Qin Feiyang had a grudge with Heavenly Cloud Mountain. Among them, there was a person called Su Mo who left a deep impression on Qin Feiyang. But now, everything was in the past. The East Tomb Treasure Pavilion Master, West Desert Treasure Pavilion Master, and South Wilderness Treasure Pavilion Master also came to congratulate him. As for the granddaughter of the East Tomb Treasure Pavilion Master, Miss Fairy, she was also invited. Because Hui Yi had always coveted the fairy wine. That day, Miss Fairy was also very generous and took out 10,000 jars of fairy wine as a congratulatory gift. To Hui Yi, nothing was more precious than this congratulatory gift. Of course, many people came to attend the ceremony, partly because of Qin Feiyang. Because now, Qin Feiyang was a well-known figure. Everyone knew that he was the one who led the Dragon Slayer Palace and everyone to fight with the dragons in the Divine Prefecture and destroy them. Therefore, for Qin Feiyang, whether they knew him or not, whether they were former friends or former enemies, they all had a heart of respect. A few days after the ceremony ended, Qin Feiyang finally bid farewell to Hui Yi, the Grand Elder, and the others. He took the Fire Lotus and went to the Treasure Pavilion. The Treasure Pavilion of the northern region was not affected by the war. Early in the morning, the sun slowly rose from the horizon. When Qin Feiyang arrived at the Treasure Pavilion, the door was just opened. "Greetings, young Master Qin." The guard at the door bowed and saluted. He looked at Qin Feiyang with eyes full of admiration. "Where's Shengguan Qiu?" Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. The guard said, "Miss is washing up inside. Shall we ask her to come out?" "No, we'll go in ourselves." Qin Feiyang smiled and walked into the Treasure Pavilion with the Fire Lotus. "Knock, knock." In front of a door, Qin Feiyang knocked. "Come in." Shengguan Qiu's voice sounded from inside. Qin Feiyang pushed open the door and saw Shengguan Qiu coming out of the bathroom. There were some water stains on her face and between the hair on her forehead. "Why are you here?" Shengguan Qiu was surprised to see Qin Feiyang and the Fire Lotus. "Can't we come?" Qin Feiyang smiled. "Yes. You're the savior of the ancient world now. Who dares to stop you?" Shengguan Qiu laughed. "Why does it sound so ironic?" Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. "I'm praising you." "Why? What's the matter?" Shengguan Qiu asked. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded and said with a smile, "I just wanted to ask you if you still want to go to the Divine Land?" This, Shengguan Qiu hesitated. Qin Feiyang was speechless. "Weren't you reluctant to leave when you left?" "I'm asking you now. Why are you hesitating? Don't you know? It must be because you're not in the Divine Land now." Fire Lotus joked. "Ah." Qin Feiyang was shocked. Sheng Guanxiu blushed when he heard that. The atmosphere became awkward. Fire Lotus looked at the two and could not help but laugh. She waved her hand and said, okay, pretend I didn't say anything. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at Fire Lotus. He looked at Sheng Guanxiu and said with a smile, if you want to go, come with us now. You can also bring your master. Which master? Sheng Guanxiu was doubtful. Now, she had two masters. One was the pavilion master of the treasure school in the northern region, and the other was the chief pavilion master of the treasure school, Supreme Cloud. Your master in the northern region, of course. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. She can go too. Sheng Guanxiu was stunned. Of course. Qin Feiyang nodded. How about this, I'll send a message to ask my master first. Sheng Guanxiu asked. Okay. Qin Feiyang said. Sheng Guanxiu took out an image crystal, and a woman's figure quickly appeared. Greetings, senior. Qin Feiyang bowed. No need to be so polite. The woman smiled faintly. Sheng Guanxiu said, Master, Qin Feiyang asked you to go to the Divine Land. Will you go? Me? The woman was slightly stunned. She shook her head and said, why would I go to the Divine Land? It's better to stay at home. But, Sheng Guanxiu was a little anxious. I know what you're thinking. Go if you want. Don't worry about me. I can take care of myself. The woman smiled faintly. So I'm really going? Sheng Guanxiu asked. Go. No one is tying you up. Besides, your ability is already above mine. The Divine Land is your stage. The woman smiled. Don't praise me like that. It's embarrassing. Sheng Guanxiu said with a red face. I'm telling the truth. Besides, there's still the chief pavilion master. She's your master now. With her teaching you, you'll have a better future than staying in the northern region. The woman smiled. Okay then. Sheng Guanxiu nodded and turned off the image crystal. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, I'll go. Qin Feiyang smiled and turned to leave the treasure house. Are you really leaving now? I still want to tell my elder sister and brother-in-law. Sheng Guanxiu caught up with him and said. I've already told your sister and brother-in-law before coming here. They don't have any objections. We'll talk about it later. It's not like you can't come back in the future. Qin Feiyang smiled. Okay. Sheng Guanxiu nodded. Chapter 2959. The Divine Land. More than a year had passed. Apart from the major battlefields, the Divine Land had basically regained its vitality. As for the major battlefields, because the battles were too fierce and the destructive power was too terrifying, it would take a year or two for them to regain their vitality. But now, some people had returned to the Divine Land. The people who came back first were all relatively strong. After all, they were the same as Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang had the gate of time and space, so he could come and go in an instant. But the others had to fly to the Divine Land through the four seas, so their speed was naturally slower. So, the people and beasts who rushed back to the Divine Land were basically all in the Nine Heavens realm. Looking at the major battlefields and the disappearing Divine Dragon Island, everyone was full of shock. Clang! Above Divine Dragon Island. With a loud noise, the gate of time and space appeared out of thin air. Qin Feiyang, Fire Lotus, and Sheng Guanxiu walked out one after another. Divine Dragon Island was undoubtedly the center of the battlefield. The battle between Qin Feiyang and the Dragon God Sword, the battle between the Frenzy and the Prince of Dragons, and the battle between the Ancient Castle and the Ice Dragon's Sacred Sword all happened here. So it was even more tragic here. It was estimated that no grass would grow here for decades or centuries. The entire inland sea was filled with the aura of death. Sheng Guanxiu glanced down and felt the aura of death. His heart could not help but tremble. After leaving the divine land, what kind of earth-shattering battle had happened here? Greetings, Your Excellency. Suddenly, a sea of people came from all directions, tens of thousands of them, all in the Nine Heavens realm. Hello. Qin Feiyang smiled and then said, "You don't have to call me Your Excellency. Just call me by my name." "How can we do that?" Someone shook his head. "I don't like to be called Your Excellency because we are equal." Qin Feiyang smiled. "Your Excellency is really modest." "Well, we'll do as you say." Qin Feiyang, thank you so much. You are the savior of the divine land. Please accept our bow. Everyone knelt in the void and prostrated themselves. Qin Feiyang did not try to dissuade them because he knew it was useless. He smiled and said, "Get up." Everyone stood up one after another. Someone asked, "Where are the Qin Emperor and the others?" Qin Feiyang smiled, "They are all recuperating in the Black Tortoise world." That's true. Although I didn't see it with my own eyes, I can tell that the battle between you and the dragons must have been very fierce. Let them rest well. We won't disturb the three of you. After this battle, we still need to rebuild our home. We'll head back first. Everyone laughed. All right. Qin Feiyang nodded. Brothers, let's go. The surrounding people immediately scattered and disappeared into the horizon. Hero, can I have your autograph? Sheng Guanxiu looked at Qin Feiyang with admiration. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. Sheng Guanxiu said, "To be honest, don't you feel a sense of accomplishment now that everyone is admiring you?" A sense of accomplishment? Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. He shook his head and said, "Not really, but I'm happy to see the smiles on everyone's faces." Yeah. This is a smile of relief. After being oppressed by the dragons for so many years, I'm finally free. Fire Lotus smiled slightly. Sheng Guanxiu nodded and said, "The destruction of the dragons is indeed very satisfying." Buzz. All of a sudden, the image crystal rang. Qin Feiyang took out the image crystal. A shadow appeared. It was Jiang Dafei. Jiang Dafei smiled and said, "Young lord, you've indeed returned to the divine land." Just returned. You're quite well informed. Qin Feiyang smiled. Someone just sent me a message saying that you've returned to the divine land, so we immediately sent you a message. Jiang Dafei said. We? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Jiang Dafei smiled and said, "All the city lords are with me. They also want to meet you. Then come to the Divine Dragon Island." Qin Feiyang gave Jiang Dafei a coordinate. Okay. Jiang Dafei nodded and the image disappeared. Swish. In a short while, one figure after another descended upon the void in front of them. There were thousands of people in total. Greetings, young lord. Thousands of people bowed in unison. Thank you for your hard work. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. These people did not go to the Black Tortoise realm. Instead, they followed the creatures of the divine land and moved to the 4 major domains. Besides, they also had a mission to maintain order. After all, there were so many creatures in the divine land. If all of them moved to the 4 major domains at once, it would cause a lot of commotion. Therefore, they needed people to guard. Jiang Dafei and the others were undoubtedly the best candidates. It's not our hard work. It's yours. Jiang Dafei waved his hand. Qin Feiyang smiled and asked, "Are the city lords of the west, north, south, and east all here?" Yes. Jiang Dafei nodded. An old man said respectfully, "Young lord, we've long wanted to meet you, but you've been too busy. Why do you want to meet me?" Qin Feiyang smiled. The old man said, "We want to follow you, so please control us." Control? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He shook his head and said, this is the first time I've seen someone take the initiative to ask me to control them. We're willing to. The old man said. Yes. It's our blessing to be able to follow you. Please take us in. Except for the city lords of the north, the others bowed and said. Qin Feiyang glanced at these people and said with a smile, the battle is over. There's no need to control them anymore. No need to control them? Everyone was stunned. Not only that, I'll also release the control on those who were controlled before. After Qin Feiyang said that, with a thought, the slave seals on Jiang Dafei, Lei Bing, Fan Yunzhang, and the others immediately disintegrated. This, Jiang Dafei and the others looked at each other. I controlled you back then as a precaution. Now that the dragons are gone, there's no need to continue controlling you. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. But, Jiang Dafei hurriedly said. I know what you want to say. But you also know my origin. I'll leave the ancient realm sooner or later. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Leave? Everyone was stunned for a moment and quickly asked, when will you leave? I don't know yet. Of course. Even if I leave, I won't forget you. And if there's a chance, I'll come back to drink with you. At that time, don't think I'm troublesome. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. No, it's our honor. Jiang Dafei waved his hand. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. He looked at the several thousand people and said, you are all city lords with heavy responsibilities. Don't disappoint my expectations of you, and don't disappoint everyone's trust in you. Don't worry. We'll be loyal to our duties and follow your will to protect this land. Jiang Dafei said. That's good. Qin Feiyang nodded and waved his hand, saying, then go and help everyone rebuild their homes. Yes. The thousands of people responded respectfully and turned to leave. Fire Lotus said with a smile, these people can be trusted. Yes. The future of the ancient world depends on them. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Swoosh. As his voice fell, the three of them disappeared. The Black Tortoise World. The land of demons. Clouds and mist lingered, and it was quiet and peaceful. In a courtyard, Supreme Cloud, Supreme Beast, Qin Badian, Yizhong, and Lu Zhengyang sat together, talking and laughing. Qin Feiyang looked at Supreme Cloud and the others in surprise and said, you've rebuilt your physical bodies? Not yet. Because it's too boring, so we came out for a gathering. Lu Zhengyang looked up at Qin Feiyang and smiled. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. He landed in the courtyard with Fire Lotus and Shengguanqiu. Greetings, Master. Greetings, seniors. Shengguanqiu bowed. Supreme Cloud nodded and asked with a smile, does your master of the northern region have any objections to me accepting you as my disciple? No. He's very happy. He said it's my good fortune. He told me to be filial to you and listen to you in the future. Shengguanqiu hurriedly waved his hands. Really? Supreme Cloud asked. More real than real gold. Shengguanqiu nodded, looking a little restrained. After all, he hadn't spent much time with Supreme Cloud. Supreme Cloud shook his head and laughed. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, don't bully my disciple. How would I dare? Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. Supreme Cloud had accepted Shengguanqiu as his disciple purely as a temporary measure, but now it seemed that he really wanted to treat her as his disciple. This was a good thing. If Supreme Cloud really treated Shengguanqiu as his disciple, her future achievements in the ancient world would be immeasurable. Then, Qin Feiyang walked to Yizhong and asked, Master, are you well? What are you saying? Of course, I'm well. Yizhong was speechless. Qin Feiyang said, then, Longzuan. Qin Badian glared at Qin Feiyang and said, don't touch the pot that doesn't boil. It's fine. What haven't I experienced at this age? Calm down for a while, and you'll get over it. Yizhong waved his hand. That's good. Qin Feiyang chuckled and sat next to Yizhong. He looked at Shangguanxiu and Fire Lotus and said, "You guys have a seat too." "I'll pass." Shangguanxiu waved his hand and glanced around. He looked at Fire Lotus and said, "I've never walked around the Black Tortoise world properly. Sister Fire Lotus, why don't you take me around?" "Sure." Fire Lotus nodded and looked at Qin Feiyang and the others. She smiled and said, "You guys take your time." After that, the two of them turned and left. Qin Badian looked at Shangguanxiu's back and sighed. "What a good girl. It's a pity, ahem." Qin Feiyang coughed dryly and interrupted Qin Badian. Qin Badian rolled his eyes at Qin Feiyang and said angrily, "You're a typical person who doesn't know how lucky he is." "Thank you." Qin Feiyang was speechless. "Brat." Qin Badian could not help but curse. He pondered for a moment and said, "You came at the right time. I have something to announce." "What is it?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Lu Zhengyang, Yizhong, Supreme Cloud, and Supreme Beast also looked at Qin Badian in confusion. Qin Badian said, "I'm going to disband the Dragon Slayer Palace." "Disband?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. Supreme Cloud could not help but frown as well. "Are you out of your mind? It wasn't easy for us to establish the Dragon Slayer Palace, and now you want to disband it?" Chapter 2960. Our original intention in establishing the Dragon Slayer Hall was to destroy the dragons. Now that the dragons no longer exist, there is no need for the Dragon Slayer Hall to exist. Qin Badian shook his head. "That being said, the Dragon Slayer Hall is still our painstaking effort. Furthermore, we still need the Dragon Slayer Hall to maintain order in the ancient realm. If you disband the Dragon Slayer Hall now, it will be akin to a group of dragons without a leader." Supremacy Cloud said. "I also think that it cannot be disbanded. The current Dragon Slayer Hall is the backbone of the world. Once it is disbanded, I'm afraid the Divine Land will descend into chaos." Supremacy Beast nodded. "What about you?" Qin Badian looked at Yizhong. "In terms of the overall situation, it cannot be disbanded. What Supremacy Beast said makes sense. If we disband the Dragon Slayer Hall right after the dragons have been destroyed, everyone will lose their backbone. However, I am not a member of the Dragon Slayer Hall, so I have no right to make a decision. It is better for you all to discuss this matter amongst yourselves." Yizhong pondered for a moment. "In any case, I am against it. What am I not greedy for? I will not care even if the Dragon Slayer Hall continues to exist." Supremacy Cloud said. Qin Badian sighed and looked at the Yuan Venerate. "I am not guarding against you. I also know that you are not very interested in the Dragon Slayer Hall now. I have my reasons for disbanding the Dragon Slayer Hall." "What reasons?" Supremacy Cloud and Supremacy Beast looked at him suspiciously. "Now that the dragons have been destroyed, it is time for us to leave. Once Brother Zhengyang and I leave, the Dragon Slayer Hall will be leaderless. Who knows how it will develop over time? What if one day in the future, I become the next dragon clan? Therefore, it is better to disband it." Qin Badian said. "Leave." Supremacy Cloud and Supremacy Beast exchanged glances. "Yes. After all, we do not belong here. Besides, my brothers have been captured and taken to the 4th level. I have to save them." Qin Badian sighed. Supremacy Cloud and Supremacy Beast fell silent. Qin Feiyang suddenly said, "It is not necessary to disband it." The 5 of them immediately looked at Qin Feiyang. "No matter how you look at it, the existence of the dragon-slaying palace is necessary. Ancestor, you are worried that the Dragon Slayer Temple will become the next Dragon Slayer. You don't have to worry about that. Because we can totally find a reliable person to manage the dragon-slaying palace." Qin Feiyang smiled. "Then who do you think is suitable?" Qin Badian asked. This, Qin Feiyang smiled mysteriously and said, I do have a suitable candidate in mind, but I'm afraid that he won't be willing, so I'm keeping it a secret for now. So mysterious? Qin Badian was stunned. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Qin Badian said, then you have to say it. Then we'll think of a way to convince him. There's no need. When we leave, we'll just leave this mess to him. I think with his character, he definitely won't sit back and do nothing. Qin Feiyang smiled. Lu Xingyang looked at Qin Feiyang and said, why does it sound so unreliable? Can I lie to you? Don't worry, I can guarantee that he will definitely take over the dragon-slaying palace. Qin Feiyang smiled confidently. The five of them looked at each other. Qin Badian nodded and said, all right then, it's up to you. There's one more thing. Yi Zhong looked at Qin Feiyang and said, do you still remember what I said back then? What did you say? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Yi Zhong said, I'll support you as the master of the ancient world. Don't. Please don't. Qin Feiyang hurriedly waved his hand. Yi Zhong couldn't help but frown. Master, you know your disciple's character. In terms of courage, I do have it, but in terms of management, I really can't. We'll talk about it later. Like my ancestor, I have to go to the 4th level of the divine ruins. I can't stay in the ancient world forever. Qin Feiyang sighed. Yi Zhong frowned and said, why do you have to go? Master, you don't know. When I was born, there were a total of 2 divine artifacts. The castle and Chang Shui respectively. Back then, at the divine ruins, Chang Shui was snatched away by small beast. So, I have to take it back. There's also the blood feud between the inner demons and Big Cousin. I can't just let it go like this. Qin Feiyang said. Yi Zhong fell silent. Actually, after being in the Black Tortoise realm for so many years, he also knew a little. It was just that he didn't expect Qin Feiyang to be so persistent. I'm a person who is very afraid of trouble, but I have to do these things. Qin Feiyang said. All right then. Yi Zhong nodded. A forcibly picked melon is not sweet. But don't worry, your disciple already has a suitable candidate in mind. This person is more suitable than your disciple to be the master of this ancient world. Qin Feiyang laughed. Are you talking about lunatic? Yi Zhong was suspicious. Him? I'd like to, but he's a wild horse. Can you tie him up? Qin Feiyang shook his head. Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but shake their heads and laugh. Indeed. With Lunatic's character, no one could tie him up. Wait. Why don't I see Lunatic? Where is he? Qin Badian asked. I don't know. After returning to the North region, he disappeared. He didn't even come back to attend Hui Yi and Shengguan Fenglan's wedding ceremony. I sent him a message, but he didn't respond. I don't know where he is fooling around. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Hearing this, the few of them smiled bitterly. These young people were all very outstanding, but one was more unreliable than the other. Helpless. Qin Feiyang looked at Qin Badian and said, Ancestor, let's choose a time to go back. Qin Badian pondered for a while and said, when the physical body is reconstructed, we'll leave. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded and looked at Yi Zhong. Master, do you want to go to our hometown to take a look? This, Yi Zhong hesitated. Buzz. Suddenly, the image crystal rang. Qin Feiyang took out the image crystal. A shadow appeared. It was Lunatic. Immediately, Lunatic cursed and shouted, Damn you, you didn't wait for me when you went back to the divine land. You still have the nerve to say that? Where are you going without saying anything? Qin Feiyang said angrily. Cut the crap, I'm outside now, come out and pick me up. Lunatic said. Just outside? Qin Feiyang was stunned. An image appeared. Lunatic was really standing in the sky above Divine Dragon Island. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and Lunatic appeared beside him. He said in shock, "How did you come to the Divine Land? So fast." "That old man sent me here." Lunatic pursed his lips. "Old man?" Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and asked suspiciously, "Which old man?" "It's that old man." "What kind of bullshit guardian is that?" Lunatic said with some annoyance. "Have you been looking for him during this time?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "Yes." Lunatic nodded, grabbed the teacup on the table, and drank it directly without asking who it was. He said angrily, "This old man is too much." "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyang and the others looked at each other suspiciously. "Look, I went to great lengths to look for him. I finally found him in the western desert, but look what happened. He actually chased me out without saying anything." Lunatic said angrily. "Why are you looking for him?" Qin Feiyang was puzzled. "Isn't it because of my background? He gave me a heaven-defying divine art and asked me to go to the Nether King's hell, so he must know my background. But when I found him, no matter how I asked, he just wouldn't tell me. Don't you think I'm angry? Don't I have the right to know my own background?" Lunatic became angrier and angrier as he spoke. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said with a smile, "When he left, he had already said that he wanted you to find the answer yourself. It's obvious that he doesn't want to tell you, and you still went to him? Aren't you looking for trouble?" "How? Where can I find it?" "I don't have a clue at all." Lunatic said angrily. After speaking, his arms drooped down weakly. He was like a frosted eggplant. "Take it slow. Look at our ancestors' background, isn't it also a mystery?" Qin Feiyang consoled. Lunatic glanced at Qin Batian and said, "I'm different from him. He jumped out from a stone." Qin Batian's mouth twitched. Was this something a human should say? "Enough. Don't be dejected. Everything has to be done step by step. Also, Hui said that he won't see you in the future. He will beat you up every time he sees you." Qin Feiyang said. "Why did he beat me up?" Lunatic was stunned. Qin Feiyang said, "Who asked you not to attend his wedding ceremony? Married? Not bad. So be it, he can't beat me anyway." Lunatic waved his hand. Looking at Lunatic's half-dead appearance, Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, "Actually, I feel that you should go to hell to find your background." "Hell?" Lunatic was stunned. "That's right. Do you still remember the evil moon? When you come into contact with the evil moon, an image will appear in your mind. I guess these images are related to your background." Qin Feiyang guessed. Lunatic immediately lowered his head and pondered. A moment later, he slammed his palm on the stone table. "What? You gave us a scare." Qin Feiyang stared at him angrily. Lunatic said, "I'm going to hell now." "Eh." Qin Feiyang was stunned and helplessly said, "You have to change your personality. Hell hasn't opened yet, so how are you going to go?" "Nonsense, of course I'm going to find the guardian of the miracle." Lunatic said. No, it has already helped us a lot. Don't trouble it anymore." Qin Feiyang quickly dissuaded him. "Don't worry. After the dragons were destroyed, the old man and the others went to the miracle. The fire python told them that Ice Dragon had lifted the order. In other words, we can enter and leave the miracle as we wish." Lunatic said. Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked, "Really? Why would I lie to you?" Lunatic rolled his eyes. Qin Feiyang suspiciously asked, "Then why did Ice Dragon lift the order? Is there a need to think? Of course it's us. If he didn't lift the order, how can we go to the 4th floor? If we don't go to the 4th floor, who will he take revenge on?" Lunatic shook his head. Chapter 2961. Revenge, Qin Feiyang murmured, "It seems that there is a big shot behind Ice Dragon, and it is because of this big shot that he does not dare to interfere with the dragon's affairs. I think so too. The madman nodded and said, let's not talk about it anymore. Hurry up and send me out, and give me Venerable Beast's divine artifact for teleportation. Divine artifact? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. I forgot. Back then, you killed your way into the inner sea and took away his divine artifact. The madman said. Qin Feiyang patted his head and said, there is such a thing. I really forgot about it. Give it to me. The madman said. But this is Venerable Beast's. You have to ask him first. Qin Feiyang said and began to search in the interspatial ring. Venerable Beast smiled and said, take it if you like it. After a while, Qin Feiyang took out an ancient bronze mirror and threw it to the madman, saying, be careful. With our relationship with the blood demon race, what threat is there? The madman pursed his lips. It's better to be careful. After all, the old patriarch has always wanted to possess you. Qin Feiyang said. Got it, got it. The madman waved his hand impatiently. Then when I go to the 4th level, should I come and pick you up? Qin Feiyang asked. Let's talk about it then. The madman said. Qin Feiyang shook his head helplessly. It seemed that no matter what he said now, this guy would not listen. With a wave of his hand, he sent the madman out. Looking at his energetic appearance, it seems that he really cares about his background. Yi Zhong said with a smile. After all, who doesn't care about their background? Qin Feiyang smiled and looked at Yi Zhong, saying, what do you think, master? Come to our hometown to play. This, Yi Zhong hesitated again. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, don't worry, I won't sell you out. You're not serious. Yi Zhong rolled his eyes at Qin Feiyang and said, since Ice Dragon has already lifted the order, then let's go take a look. All right. You guys chat then, I'll get back to work. Qin Feiyang stood up. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something. He lowered his head and pondered for a while. Then, he looked at the ancestor and asked, how should we deal with the people of the dragon-slaying palace? The battle is over. Send them out. Qin Badian said. Go out? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. He smiled bitterly and said, I'm afraid no one is willing to go out now. Then what should we do? Are we just going to let them stay in the Black Tortoise world? That won't do. They're originally from the ancient world, so they can't follow us to the 4th floor and risk their lives. Qin Badian said. Qin Feiyang said, all right then. Find some time and ask them to clean up. Yes. Qin Badian nodded. Qin Feiyang turned and walked into the ancient castle. He swept his gaze across the hall and sat on a chair. His senses extended infinitely. Whoosh. Very soon, one by one, figures appeared in the ancient castle. They were Li Chang, Li Changhe, Wang Daoyuan, the 3 black leopard brothers, Big Black Wolf, the 5-clawed golden dragon, Feng Daji, Yang Li, Wang Ming, and the straw-sandal old man. What's the matter? They looked around and looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. The battle is over. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Yes. Yang Li nodded. It was not easy. With a thought, Qin Feiyang also removed everyone's enslavement seal. Young master, what are you doing? Wang Ming looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. I promised everyone that I would remove the control after the battle. You are free from now on. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Free, everyone murmured and lowered their heads. They felt a little disappointed. Why do you still look unhappy? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. Young master, to tell you the truth, I really wanted to get rid of your control in the past. But after interacting with you for a long time, I realized that you are a good person. Righteous, responsible, and good to us. Young master, I know what you mean, but I don't want to leave. Wang Ming said. Qin Feiyang asked, "Are you willing to die on the fourth floor with me?" "Yes." Wang Ming nodded without hesitation. "Thank you." Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "But all good things must come to an end. We will be separated sooner or later. Boss, you are burning the bridge after crossing the river. From the moment I followed you into the Black Tortoise world, I had no intention of leaving." Big Black Wolf looked at Qin Feiyang with dissatisfaction. "Us too." The three Black Leopard brothers nodded. "Young master, since you have given us freedom, please let us make our own decisions." Yang Li glanced at Big Black Wolf and the three Black Leopard brothers before looking at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang looked at Yang Li, Wang Ming, the three Black Leopard brothers, and Big Black Wolf with a smile. "All right, you guys can make the decision." "I choose to stay," Wang Ming said immediately. "Me too," Yang Li added. "Us too." Big Black Wolf and the three Black Leopard brothers ran out. "I knew it." Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. "Hee hee." Big Black Wolf grinned. "What about you guys?" Qin Feiyang looked at Feng Daji and the others. Feng Daji pondered for a moment and looked at Qin Feiyang. "Young master, let me say this first. I am not afraid of death. I know. If you were, you wouldn't have self-destructed in the internal sea to save us." Qin Feiyang smiled. "You still remember." Feng Daji scratched his head. "How can I forget the favor of saving my life? And Li Changhe, when I entered the Dragon God's palace, you also stood in front of me without hesitation." Qin Feiyang smiled. "It's a small matter." Li Changhe waved his hand. Qin Feiyang looked at the group and said with a smile, "Tell me what you really think in your hearts at this moment." "Okay." Feng Daji nodded and said, "I have always worked for the dragons in the past, and I have always felt guilty. So now that the dragons have been destroyed, I want to stay and do something for China and the ancient world." "That's a good thing." Qin Feiyang nodded. "Me too. I want to stay and atone for the sins I have committed in the past." Li Chang looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "It's really rare for you guys to have such a heart. If it were someone else who fought against the dragons and won, they would have been smug. But you guys have never let go of the self-blame and apology in your hearts. This makes me admire you very much." Qin Feiyang said with a smile. "Thank you." Feng Daji and Li Chang smiled gratefully. "What about you guys?" Qin Feiyang looked at Straw Sandals group and asked. "Us?" The six of them looked at each other and smiled. The old man said, "We followed you purely because we want to contribute to the destruction of the dragons. There are no other thoughts." "I understand." Qin Feiyang nodded and said with a smile, "Then I wish you all the best in the future." "Thank you." The six of them smiled. "Young master, Wang Daoyuan and I have just discussed in secret. We are also prepared to stay in China. After all, this is our home. We can't bear to leave," Li Changhe said as he looked at Qin Feiyang. "Yes." Wang Daoyuan nodded in agreement. Home. Who in this world is willing to leave home? But most of the time, there is no choice. So I envy you and wish you all the best. Qin Feiyang sighed deeply and looked at the two with a smile. "Thank you, young master. Although we will stay in the ancient realm, our hearts will always follow you and support you. And we will also follow your will and guard this continent well." Li Changhe and Feng Daji bowed. "Good." Qin Feiyang nodded, glanced at the group of people, and said with a smile, "With you all, I believe the ancient realm will become more and more prosperous." "We will." The group of people also nodded. Qin Feiyang got up and said with a smile, "Okay then, before I leave, you all continue to cultivate in the Black Tortoise realm." "Okay." Everyone nodded. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly, walked out of the castle, and looked at the clear sky. Although he had experienced countless storms and tribulations in this trip to the ancient realm, he had also gained a group of brothers and friends who had gone through life and death. It was worth it. In the blink of an eye. Another year passed outside. The vegetation had recovered, and the divine land had shown a scene of vitality. Moreover, under the leadership of Jiang Dafei and the others, the major cities had also risen from the ground, returning to their former glory. Qin Feiyang was really pleased with the performance of Jiang Dafei and the others. They were orderly and conscientious. Yi Zhong and the others had also reconstructed their physical bodies. On this day, Qin Feiyang, Qin Badian, Yi Zhong, Supreme Cloud, and Beast Supreme left the Black Tortoise Realm and traveled to every corner of the Divine Land. Looking at the brand new cities and the smiling faces, their hearts were incomparably warm. As long as everyone was living well, they would be satisfied. The next day, outside the Holy Dragon City. Early in the morning, a sea of people gathered in the sky above the city. The leaders were the city lords of the western, northern, southern, and eastern regions. Everyone was looking at the void, as if waiting for something. Suddenly, a group of figures appeared out of thin air in the void outside the city. There were hundreds of millions of them. They were the members of the dragon-slaying palace. In the past, there were only tens of millions of them, but over the years, the number had multiplied several times over. However, at this moment, their faces were filled with disappointment and reluctance. Swish. After a while, the 108 generals also appeared. They were also disappointed and reluctant. After a while, many people appeared again. Qin Feiyang, Yi Zhong, Supreme Cloud, Beast Supreme, Qin Batian, Lu Xingyang, Ice Emperor, Rain Emperor, and Shengguan Qiu were among them. They're out. The people in the sky above the city were in an uproar. So many people? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Jiang Dafei smiled and said, "Young Lord, Emperor Qin, Emperor Yang, we're all here to see you off. Didn't I say that you don't have to see us off?" Qin Feiyang looked at the faces and said, "No. You've done so much for us. If you don't even come to see us off, are we still human? That's right. We want to see you leave with our own eyes. We want to remember your faces. We don't want to forget your faces for the rest of our lives." Everyone roared in high spirits. "Thank you." Qin Feiyang was extremely touched. He smiled and said, "The peace now is not easy to come by. You must protect it well. When I come down, I hope to see a more harmonious ancient world." "We will." Everyone nodded. "All right then. I've told you what I should tell you before. I have nothing else to say now. Then let's part ways here." Qin Feiyang looked at the city lords and said with a smile. Then, he waved his hand and opened the space-time gate. Chapter 2962. Jiang Dafei glanced at the space-time gate and looked at Qin Feiyang's back. "Young lord. What's wrong?" Qin Feiyang turned to look at Jiang Dafei and asked with a smile. Plop. Jiang Dafei knelt in the void, lowered his head, and roared, "You must take care. Take care." Lei Bing and the others also knelt in the void, lowered their heads and roared. "Thank you," Qin Feiyang whispered. Looking at these people, his eyes couldn't help but tear up. "Let's go. The more I look, the more reluctant I am." Qin Badian patted Qin Feiyang's shoulder and said, "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded and looked at Jiang Dafei and the others. "You guys take care too." After saying that, he turned around and stepped into the space-time gate. Qin Badian and the others followed closely behind. "Farewell, young lord. Farewell, Emperor Qin. Farewell, Emperor Yang." Jiang Dafei roared. The next moment, everyone present, including the hundreds of millions of people from the Dragon Slayer Palace, knelt in the void and roared. Their voices were like a bell that resounded through the world. Land of the undead. After many years, this place was still barren and lifeless. Whoosh! A group of people appeared out of thin air. It was Qin Feiyang and the others. Supreme Cloud, Supreme Beast, Shengguan Xiu, Feng Daji, Li Chang, the Ice Emperor, the Straw Shoe Old Man, and the others also followed. They weren't going to the great Qin Empire. They just wanted to see Qin Feiyang and the others leave the ancient realm. Qin Badian turned to look at everyone and said with a smile, "Farewell will come eventually. Let's stop here." Supreme Cloud said, "We've already come this far. It doesn't matter if we have to go one more time." Okay. Qin Badian and Qin Feiyang looked at each other and nodded with a smile. The group entered the land of the undead and flew toward the portal. They didn't move fast and didn't chat along the way. They silently cherished this last moment together. Unknowingly, the ancient portal entered everyone's sight. The reluctance on everyone's faces became more and more obvious. Especially Shengguan Xiu. She looked at Qin Feiyang's back with tears in her eyes. Finally, the group landed in front of the square. Qin Feiyang, Qin Badian, and Lu Jingyang stood together and turned to look at everyone. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Everyone, let's stop here." Yes. Supreme Cloud and the others nodded. As for Revered Cloud, Revered Beast, Revered Ice Emperor, Rain Emperor, and 108 generals, Qin Feiyang had already removed the enslavement seal on them before he left the Black Tortoise realm. Now, everyone was free. Then we'll meet again. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said. "Wait." Supreme Cloud said. Qin Feiyang was taken aback. He looked at Supreme Cloud and said with a smile, "Don't tell me you still can't bear to part with me? Don't be so smug. I can't wait for you to scram." Supreme Cloud rolled his eyes. "Huh," Qin Feiyang laughed loudly. "I stopped you because I wanted to tell you that if you really want to go to the 4th floor, don't be as high profile as you were in the ancient world. Just bear with it, it won't do you any harm." Supreme Cloud sighed. "Thank you for your concern." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "Who cares about you?" Supreme Cloud rolled his eyes and waved his hand impatiently. "Scram, scram." Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. "I'll say one more thing." Revered Beast looked at Qin Feiyang, Qin Badian, and Lu Jingyang, and said with a smile, "The gates of the ancient world are always open to all of you. You're welcome to return." "Thank you." The three of them cupped their hands and smiled. Qin Feiyang glanced at everyone and couldn't help but look at Shengguan Xiu. Seeing her tearful face, he couldn't help but feel his heart ache. He slowly walked forward and wiped away her tears, saying softly, "Take good care of yourself, okay? Don't let everyone worry about you." "Okay." Shengguan Xiu nodded, still keeping her head down. "Then I'm leaving," Qin Feiyang said. Shengguan Xiu's eyes trembled. She plucked up her courage and looked up at Qin Feiyang, saying, "Can you hug me?" Qin Feiyang was stunned, then smiled, opened his arms, and pulled Shengguan Xiu into his embrace. Shengguan Xiu immediately burst into tears. Qin Feiyang blamed himself in his heart. What did he do to make this woman cry for him? He had let down too many good girls in his life. He was not a good man at all. Because a good man would never let a woman cry for him. But there was no room for another woman in his heart. He could treat Shengguan Xiu as family, as a confidant, but he could never treat her as a lover. If there was no love between a man and a woman, he could not force them to be together. Otherwise, both of them would be hurt in the end. "I'm sorry," Qin Feiyang murmured. Shengguan Xiu shook her head and said, "You didn't do anything wrong. I did it willingly. I'm not worth it," Qin Feiyang said. Shengguan Xiu smiled and said, "Whether it's worth it or not, I know the scale in my heart." "You little girl," Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. "All right." Shengguan Xiu got out of Qin Feiyang's arms, wiped the tears from her face, and said with a smile, "I'm not that weak. Don't worry about me. Go." Qin Feiyang looked at Sheng Guanqiu deeply, then turned and walked toward the portal without looking back. Sheng Guanqiu suddenly said, "Don't let the mermaid princess down again." Qin Feiyang paused and smiled. "Thank you. I'll cherish it." Then, he stepped into the portal. Qin Badian looked at Sheng Guanqiu and sighed in his heart. He then looked at Supreme Cloud and the rest, cupping his hands and smiling. "See you again, everyone. See you again." Supreme Cloud and the rest also cupped their hands and sent him off. The first level of the miracle. Whoosh! In the sky above a mountain, figures appeared one after another. They were led by Qin Feiyang, Qin Badian, Lu Jingyang, and Yi Zhong. After that, dozens of people appeared. Surprisingly, Xia Yuan was among them. Boom! As soon as this group of people appeared, terrifying rule-bending powers descended from the sky, their auras firmly locked onto them. What's this? Yi Zhong was shocked. This is the rule power of the miracle. The first level of the miracle only allows those below the god of war to enter. Qin Badian said in a low voice. Don't worry. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and smiled, facing the rule power calmly. Whoosh! Almost as soon as he finished speaking, a beast shadow appeared in the sky. It was the fire python. When the fire python saw that it was Qin Feiyang, it immediately dispelled the rule power and smiled. Brother Qin. Brother Fire. Qin Feiyang also laughed out loud and quickly went up to greet him. Long time no see. The fire python looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Your strength has improved a lot. I've barely reached the half-step imperishable realm. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. Half-step imperishable realm, that's still very powerful, okay? Look at me, I've been cultivating in the temple all these years, but I've only just reached the paragon god realm. The fire python said. Even if you're only at the paragon god realm, I'm still not your opponent. Qin Feiyang laughed. That's nice to hear. The fire python laughed and looked at Yi Zhong and the others. Aren't you going to introduce us? Yes, I must. Qin Feiyang smiled and pointed at Yi Zhong. This is my master, perfect imperishable realm. Perfect imperishable realm. The fire python was shocked. Yi Zhong bowed and said, Greetings, Lord Guardian. Don't. You're Qin Feiyang's master, and Qin Feiyang and I call each other brothers, so you're also my elder. I should be the one bowing to you. The fire python hurriedly said. Hearing this, Yi Zhong's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. He didn't expect this guardian to be so humble. Qin Feiyang pointed at Qin Batian and Lu Jingyang and said with a smile, These two are my two ancestors, Qin Batian and Lu Jingyang. I've heard a lot about you. The fire python looked at the two of them and smiled. You're welcome. Qin Badian waved and cupped his hands. Thank you for taking care of Feiyang all these years. We're friends, so it's only right to take care of each other. The fire python smiled slightly. As for them, Qin Feiyang looked at Xia Yuan's group and asked with a frown, Ancestors, why have they come as well? There were a total of 54 people here. In other words, half of the 108 generals had followed them. You don't know yet, right? Xia Yuan and the others are also people of the great Qin. Qin Badian smiled. What? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Didn't a group of subordinates follow me into the ancient realm back then? That's them. There used to be more than 100 people, but they fought with the dragons in the ancient realm and many died in battle. Qin Badian sighed. I see. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood and cupped his hands. Thank you for taking care of my ancestors. Your Highness, don't say that. It's the Qin Emperor who has always taken care of us. Xia Yuan smiled. Your Highness? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Now that we've left the ancient realm, the Dragon Slayer Palace has nothing to do with us. We can't call you young lord anymore, right? You're a prince of the great Qin Empire, so we should call you your highness instead. Xia Yuan said. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. He looked at the fire python and said, I won't introduce them one by one because even I don't know their names. The fire python nodded and smiled. Then what are you doing now? We're going back to the great Qin Empire first. My ancestors haven't gone back for a long time, so they want to go back and take a look. Qin Feiyang said. What about the 4th level of the divine sight? The fire python asked. We'll have to go there sooner or later. Qin Feiyang clenched his fists, and his eyes shone with a shocking sharpness. Thank you. The fire python said gratefully. Why are you thanking me? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. You didn't hesitate to go to the 4th level to avenge my father. How can I not thank you? The fire python sighed. It's not all because of the fire dragon. I also have some personal grudges, so I have to go to the 4th level. Qin Feiyang said. No matter what, I have to thank you. The fire python said. All right then, I'll accept your thanks. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, by the way, you didn't see Frenzy? Yes. Some time ago, he came alone and said that he was going to the Nether King's Hell to find the mystery of his origin. At that time, I asked why you didn't come back. The fire python said with a smile. Is he going to the Nether King's Hell now? Qin Feiyang said. Yes. I sent him there personally. The fire python nodded. Qin Feiyang asked, are Ice Dragon and Small Beast in the divine sight now? I'm not sure about the 4th level, but there are no traces of them in the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st levels. The fire python shook its head. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, then back then, when you let us go back to the ancient world without permission, did they pursue your responsibility? No. They didn't even mention it, which surprised me. The fire python said with a smile. That's good. Qin Feiyang breathed a sigh of relief. Chapter 2963. Qin Feiyang was afraid that the fire python would be implicated because of him. The fire python's care for him was indescribable. If it was because of him, it would be punished or even lose its life. He would feel guilty for the rest of his life. But fortunately, none of this happened. However, putting aside the small beast, it didn't care about these things. But what did this ice dragon mean? It didn't even ask. The fire python asked, then this emperor will send you back to Great Qin now? Wait a moment. Qin Feiyang hurriedly opened his mouth and asked, Brother Fire, tell me the truth, did you see a fire Qilin at the scene? He had always been concerned about the fire Qilin. This was because he always had an inexplicable sense of familiarity with the fire Qilin. However, this fire Qilin was not referring to the beast Venerable. It was the fire Qilin that he had met in the Forgotten Continent. This, the fire python hesitated. Qin Feiyang asked, looking at your reaction, you have seen it before, right? To tell you the truth, I have indeed seen it before. Back then, when you were training in the miracle, it had already gone to the 3rd floor. And there was a divine beast with it. The fire python said. Then why didn't you tell me earlier? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. The fire Qilin didn't want me to say it. Because at that time, we didn't know what was on the 3rd floor. The fire Qilin was afraid that you would take the risk to look for it. The fire python said. Qin Feiyang frowned, and was suddenly stunned, and said in surprise, wait, you just said that there was another divine beast? Yes. He had the appearance of a human, but I could tell that he was a divine beast. And at that time, he had the cultivation of a false god. The fire python said. The appearance of a human, the cultivation of a false god? Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned, and a figure gradually appeared in his mind. Immediately. With a wave of his hand, the figure of a middle-aged man condensed. The fire python nodded. That's right, it's him. I didn't expect them to be together. Qin Feiyang murmured. He looked at Qin Badian and said, Ancestor, you should be familiar with this person, right? Qin Badian glanced at the middle-aged man and nodded. That's right, he's the mythical beast from the endless ocean of the Forgotten Continent. That's him. Back then, you sealed him, causing his cultivation to remain at the false god realm. The last time he entered the divine sight, it was to find you. Because at that time, they all said that you entered the third floor. Qin Feiyang said. Actually, it wasn't me who sealed it, it was the broken sword. At that time, I was only a war god. How could I have such a powerful method to seal him? Qin Badian said. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization, and said, then to break his seal, isn't that only broken sword can do it? Not necessarily. Those whose strength has reached broken sword's level can forcefully break it. Qin Badian smiled slightly. Then his seal should still be there, because there's no such powerhouse on the third floor. Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled as he said this, and he said in surprise, wait, why didn't I see them on the third floor? Qin Badian said, the third floor is so big, it's normal that you didn't see them. No. From the second floor to the third floor, they appeared in the divine demon forest. I'm very clear about how terrifying the divine demon forest is. With the strength of the fire Qilin and the mythical beast uncle, it's impossible for them to escape from the divine demon forest. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. That means, Qin Badian frowned. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and nodded, yes, they're probably doomed. Back then, I didn't have the qualifications to enter the third floor, so I don't know what happened after they entered the third floor. But over the years, I've been looking for them on the third floor. The fire python said. How was it? Qin Feiyang asked. I didn't find them. The fire python shook its head. Qin Feiyang's body stiffened when he heard this, and he sighed. It seems like they really died in the divine demon forest. I'm sorry. If I knew that the third floor was so dangerous, I wouldn't have let them in. The fire python said. That has nothing to do with you. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly, and then frowned slightly. But back then, when I entered the third floor, the door of the temple was tightly shut, and there was no way out. Could it be that the door of the temple was open when they entered? The fire python nodded. The door of the temple was indeed open in the past. No wonder. Qin Feiyang muttered and sighed. I just hope that they're still alive. Putting the fire Qilin aside, let's talk about the mythical beast uncle. Back then, when he was beheaded in public, the mythical beast uncle came all the way to the great Qin to save him. Although it was his great-grandmother who invited him, he couldn't forget this kindness. Heaven helps the worthy, don't worry too much. Taking a step back, even if they died in the Nether King's hell, I believe that they won't blame anyone. The fire python said. The fire Qilin won't, but this mythical beast uncle. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but look at Qin Badian when he said this. Why are you looking at me? If he hadn't stirred up trouble back then, would the broken sword have sealed his cultivation? To be honest, if it were me, if it were someone else, they wouldn't have given him a way out at all. Qin Badian said. That's true. Qin Feiyang nodded. This mythical beast uncle had stirred up a storm in the Forgotten Continent back then. Perhaps only the ancestor would spare his life. Qin Feiyang said, the whereabouts of the fire Qilin mythical beast uncle have been figured out, but Tan Wu and the infernal divine hound are still a mystery. Tan Wu, the infernal divine hound? Qin Badian was stunned. Yes. This Tan Wu is very valued by Yuan Bo. At that time, they also entered the ancient world with me. But after we parted ways in the land of the dead, I haven't seen them in the ancient world again. Later, I even asked the people of Ninth Heaven Palace and the Treasure Pavilion to help search for them, but they couldn't find them. I wonder where they are now. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Qin Badian asked, Have you searched for the eastern tomb, the western desert, and the southern wasteland? Not really. Because I was in the northern region at that time, the people of Ninth Heaven Palace and the Treasure Pavilion could only search in the northern region. However, I'm quite famous in the ancient world now. Even if they're in the eastern tomb, the western desert, and the southern wasteland, they should have heard of me. Let's talk about it later. The 4 regions are very far away. Apart from the teleportation altar, can they reach the western desert, the southern wasteland, and the eastern tomb with their cultivation? Qin Feiyang frowned. Qin Badian pondered for a while and sighed. Even if it's possible, it's likely that they're already dead. It's not possible. There's a 99% chance that they're dead. After all, the northern region is not Great Qin. It's not something they can deal with. Lu Xingyang shook his head. Dead, Qin Feiyang murmured. He also thought so, but he didn't want to believe it in his heart. Because Tan Wu was indeed a good person. Forget it. Everyone has their own fate. There's no need to investigate to the end. We'll talk about it later. If they're really dead, I'm afraid that even if you turn the entire ancient world upside down, you might not be able to find their bones. Qin Badian said. Sigh. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. Then let's go back. By the way, Brother Fire, can you leave the divine site now? Me? The fire python was stunned. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Lord Beast God and Lord Ice Dragon aren't here, so I can sneak out. The fire python said. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, if there's a chance, come and attend my wedding. Wedding? The fire python was stunned and said in surprise, you're getting married? I plan to. Qin Feiyang nodded. The fire python said with a smile, even if I die, I have to attend your wedding. Please don't. I don't want to feel guilty for the rest of my life. Qin Feiyang hurriedly waved his hand. The fire python laughed and said, then I'll see. If there's a chance, I'll go. Then I'll wait for your arrival. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and smiled. Great Qin. Reincarnation Ocean. The wind whistled and the waves surged. In the ocean, the roars of the sea beasts were shocking. Demon Dragon Island. Qin Feiyang's stone statue was still standing on the coast of the inner sea like a guardian god, guarding this land. Swoosh. A group of people suddenly descended from the sky above the stone statue. We're finally back. That's right. It was Qin Feiyang's group. Looking at this land, Qin Badian, Lu Xingyang, Xia Yuan, and the other 54 divine generals were filled with emotions. It had been more than 10,000 years since they left the Great Qin. Although so much time had passed, everything in front of them was still very familiar. Even the air and sea breeze here gave them a strange sense of familiarity. This is the Great Qin, Yi Zhong looked around curiously. This place was too small. With his cultivation, he could almost see the entire reincarnation ocean at a glance. Master, our small place definitely can't compare to the ancient world. Please don't mind. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Yi Zhong couldn't help but laugh. Suddenly, he noticed the stone statue below and asked in surprise, this is you, right? Isn't it very powerful and handsome? Qin Feiyang chuckled. Shameless. Yi Zhong rolled his eyes and asked, why is there a stone statue of you here? Qin Badian and the others were also puzzled. Isn't this because I defeated the demon ancestor and Mu Tianyang back then and protected this land, so everyone erected a stone statue of me? Qin Feiyang explained a little and hurriedly clarified, don't misunderstand, I didn't ask for this. I only found out when I came back last time. Then you're amazing now. I'm afraid that the entire Great Qin and Forgotten Continent have such statues now. Qin Badian said. Qin Feiyang nodded embarrassedly. Don't be embarrassed, this is what you deserve. And I have a feeling that the ancient world will be like this in the future. When that time comes, there will be statues of you everywhere. Qin Badian shook his head and smiled. Hee hee. Qin Feiyang rubbed his head, looking charmingly naive. Let's go. Let's go for a walk. Qin Badian smiled. Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked, aren't we going back to the imperial capital directly? No hurry. Qin Badian waved his hands as he surveyed the surroundings with a warm smile on his face. Swoosh. Just as the group was about to leave, a figure appeared in front of them. It was an old man with white hair, but his body was extremely strong. Today's second chapter. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.